Chapter 4751. Do you know how to avoid a one-sided collision? Remember, first find a fulcrum and make the car lose its balance. The four wheels are one high and one low. Step on the accelerator and hold the steering wheel tightly. One of the wheels is lifted off the fulcrum, and the other wheel is used to support the entire car. Her lover's handsome face was cold and his tone was serious. He taught her step by step and explained very carefully so that she could find the trick as soon as possible. The man she loved deeply was still waiting for her to return, so how could she let them kill her? Her best days had just begun, and her journey had just begun. She hadn't found Uncle Chen's murderer, and she hadn't paid more for the military uniform. How could she be killed by the enemy? So, this was definitely not her burial ground. Even if she died, she would be the one to kill them. One of the wheels was on the mountain, while the other was on the ground. Yi Qian turned his head and glanced coldly at the car coming from the other side. Under the other party's incredulous gaze, Yi Qian turned the steering wheel to the outside. No, 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 bang, bang, dong. Two frightened voices came from the car driven by Yi Qian and squeezed into the cliff. Accompanied by their horrified cries of imminent death, the car squeezed into the cliff on the narrow mountain road. They thought that they would definitely be able to take care of the Chinese girl who was biting them. They were very confident. But what happened? The car crashed into the cliff, and the entire car was turned upside down. The world was spinning, and it was too late. Behind them, Officer Lu's pupils constricted as he looked at the scene less than 3 meters away from him. The mountain wind blew, and his back was drenched in cold sweat. This thing actually worked as well. She actually squeezed the other car into the cliff. No wonder Captain Deng told him that the female soldier's actions would be arranged by her, and he didn't need to intervene. No wonder Captain Deng told him that since Wu Jinkuan was dead, the next actions would be arranged by the female soldier. He also told him that he must trust the female soldier and not underestimate her because of her gender or age. Now he understood. The car fell into a bottomless cliff, and the trees and shrubs that grew near the cliff were all crushed, producing a large number of kacha snapping sounds. The metal collided with the rock, and the ground trembled faintly, lingering for a long time. Yi Qian pushed open the car door. A pair of strong hands supported her stumbling body. Looking up, Yi Qian smiled when he saw who it was. Officer Lu held her hands tightly and wanted to ask if she was okay, but the hand holding her quickly pulled away. The person who was standing in front of him a moment ago had already turned to stand behind him. Lena is in front. We can't let her escape from the Golden Triangle. Yi Qian stood firmly with a headscarf in his hand. By the time he finished speaking, he was already seated on the back seat of the motorcycle. You came at the right time. Once you've dealt with her, we can return home together. The reason why Yi Jian sat up quickly was because she did not want him to see the gunshot wound on her shoulder. She didn't even have time to deal with it. She had to hurry up and catch up with Lena. Once Lena escaped from the Golden Triangle, perhaps she would abandon the car and escape into the vast jungle. It would be like looking for a needle in a haystack to find Lena. Officer Lu looked at his palm full of blood, and his lips trembled. He still hadn't recovered from the shocking scene just now. He wanted to say something, but the female soldier sitting behind him said calmly, "It's not my blood. It's the blood of the people in the car." Chapter 4752. Yi Jian, who was sitting at the back, didn't even look at his wound. His cold voice came calmly, "We can't give Lena a chance to escape. We are a certain distance away from her now. We can't delay any longer. Hurry!" He didn't want to give Officer Lu a chance to look back at her. If he looked again, he might be exposed. Looking inside the car, Officer Lu gently closed his eyes and said, "Sit tight. Lu Qing, Lena is the second most important target for the Yun Province police. If possible, you must kill her while protecting yourself. This was the short 2-minute conversation he had with Captain Deng before he chased out on his motorcycle. He told Captain Deng that he had taken care of Wu Jingquan during the chaos. The female soldier Yi Qian's whereabouts were unknown. It was very likely that they were chasing after Lina. Captain Deng told him to trust the female soldier's ability and to cooperate with her to kill the second most important target. Now it was time to kill the second most important target. I've already contacted Captain Deng. After we take care of Lina, we'll head to the border of Yun province immediately. There will be helicopters patrolling to ensure that we can return home immediately. Lina needs to be taken care of. Captain Deng reminded us that we must take care of ourselves and not force ourselves. Just now, if Captain Deng was here, he would have severely criticized you. Officer Lu's voice was distorted by the wind. Yi Jian, who was secretly bandaging the gunshot wound on her shoulder with a scarf to stop the bleeding, said with a smile, "I only did that because I was confident. These are the courses that I used to train in. It looks dangerous, but in fact, it's not that dangerous for us. We've done more dangerous things. Driving a car on one side is easy." Her casual reply made Officer Lu smile faintly. "You're a member of the Special Forces, and there are very few women in the Special Forces. Especially an outstanding Special Forces soldier like you. You're like a rare treasure. So, nothing must happen to you. Nothing must happen to you. Captain Deng ordered me to bring you back to the country safely. Don't worry, Captain Deng. I also want to return safely. After we take care of Lina, we'll go back immediately without delay." "No problem. That's all." "Okay." The Narcotics Squad and the Army Special Forces, who were from different systems but had fought side by side in the same mission, made an agreement with each other in the wind to return home together. They stepped on the accelerator of the motorcycle and chased after her. Whether or not they could catch up to her was not within their scope of consideration. They only had one goal: to kill Lina. On the mountain road less than 10 kilometers away from the motorcycle, a jeep steadily and quickly drove along the narrow mountain road out of the vast mountains. Everything that happened behind them was far away from them. They did not know what was happening behind them, nor did they know that someone was chasing after them. The mountain path hidden in the forest continued to meander, leading to the place of hope. 10 minutes later, the driver, Lana, glanced at the mountain stream on the other side, his eyes cold. "There's a light passing by," he whispered, waking Lina, who was resting behind him. Opening her eyes, Lina quickly asked, "What light? Headlights?" "It doesn't look like a headlight," Lana answered. "It's a single beam of light that's slightly brighter than a single headlight. It might be a motorcycle headlight." "Impossible. If all the motorcycles had been emptied, there wouldn't have been any motorcycles." The Burmese man sitting in the passenger seat pressed on the edge of the car window with one hand and stuck his head out of the window. He gritted his teeth and replied, "Are you sure?" Chapter 4753. Lina had her suspicions about the motorcycles chasing after them. All the vehicles in the stockade, including the 3 that Wu Jingquan drove, were destroyed. There was no fuel left in the fuel tank. It was the same for the motorcycles. All the fuel had been drained. How could there be motorcycles? Oil drums in the factory. After Lana finished speaking coldly, he stepped on the accelerator slightly and sped up again. The expressions of everyone in the car, including Lina, changed. Lina's expression turned stern as she glanced at her trusted aide sitting in front of her. Lina didn't need to say anything to know that Lana was right. The oil drums in the factory. They forgot to deal with them. Lina took a deep breath and said calmly, "The ones chasing after us are Wu Jingquan's men. Only they know that there will be oil drums in the factory. We can't rule out the possibility that they escaped in advance." Lina looked at Lana from the corner of her eye. "We can go straight into the mountains. Lana, come with me. The 3 of you stay and see who's chasing after us." His eyes were gloomy and cold. "No matter who it is, kill them all. If it's that Chinese girl who's chasing after us, bring her to me. You know the place. Come and meet us after you've dealt with all the tales. Lena planned to abandon the car and enter the mountains. It wasn't safe to drive at this time. It was easier to escape into the mountains. It wasn't a problem to hide a few people in the vast mountains. Besides, this was her territory. This mountain. Be it Wu Jingquan's men or General Minlai's men, no one was familiar with her, who had been born and raised here. Lana nodded, indicating that he had no objections. The other three in the car nodded. They were also very familiar with this place. As for that Chinese girl, they would only know if she was still alive after they met her. Lena closed her eyes to hide the trembling deep in her face. She had to stay calm. She had to stay calm. Even if the people chasing after them were the general's best assassins, she would definitely be able to escape successfully. Lena didn't care about Wu Jingquan's men. She didn't even care about Yi Qian. She was most afraid of General Minlai's men. It was normal to be afraid of someone who had once controlled her life and death. The motorcycle's speed was very fast. The narrow mountain road was relatively narrow for vehicles, but it was very spacious for motorcycles. Lu Ning, the undercover anti-narcotics police officer, stared coldly ahead, steadily driving the motorcycle into the darkness ahead. After making a big turn, Yi Qian, who had been observing the situation in front of him, suddenly pressed forward. The target vehicle has stopped. Remember the approximate location. Lu Ning analyzed in a deep voice. The more they were at a time like this, the clearer their minds were. They could not make any mistakes. There are three possibilities. First, Lena gets off the car first and enters the mountain. Second, someone gets off the car to ambush her. Third, Lena gets off the car and the car continues to move forward. Yi Qian watched as the car rose and disappeared again. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. I choose the third possibility. The target gets off the car and enters the mountain. The car continues to move forward. Lu Ning asked, "Are you sure?" Yi Qian nodded. Yes. After all, he had been by Lena's side for a few months. If he didn't even know what kind of person Lena was, then he would be too incompetent. The disappearing headlights suddenly turned back. This time, it wasn't moving forward, but the car reversed. Both of them saw it clearly, and their faces darkened at the same time. The fourth possibility appeared. Lena escaped into the mountain, and the car reversed to block her, not to lure the enemy away. Chapter 4754. Target number 2 is quite cautious. Lu Ning, with his back slightly arched, spoke in a muffled voice. The strong wind blew away his voice and made it sound a little muffled in Yi Qian's ears. Since we've turned around, why don't we? In the wind, Yi Jian's cold voice drifted into the ears of Lu Ning, the undercover drug police who had been by Wu Jingquan's side for 3 years. When the cold voice disappeared, Lu Ning had a faint smile in his eyes. Okay. He answered Yi Qian with a single word, indicating that he trusted Yi Qian completely and would cooperate with all arrangements. As the motorcycle sped up again, the jeep had to stop before they reached the most suitable place. If they didn't stop now, they would run into the pursuers before they were ready. Get out. The driver stopped the car and quickly opened the door. The other two got out of the car. The driver, who got out first, opened the trunk and grabbed 3 times with one hand. All 3 of them had guns in their hands. They acted quickly. The jeep hidden in the corner opened all 4 doors. The 3 of them hid behind the open doors and stared ahead coldly, waiting for the motorcycle to come over. They would shoot immediately regardless of who it was. 3 minutes later, the sound of the motorcycle's engine came closer. The lights suddenly disappeared. The 3 of them who were hiding behind the doors were stunned. What's going on? No one dared to cross the line. They could only guess what the other party would do. At the same time, they were vigilant of their surroundings to prevent a sneak attack. The lights of the motorcycle that lit up the mountain road went off, and the engine continued to roar. The three of them clenched their guns tightly and gritted their teeth so hard that grooves appeared in their cheek. The Burmese man hiding in the back door whispered, "How many people will there be? I'm not sure. Did they suddenly stop because they found out that we're here?" The Burmese man hiding behind the left door in front said viciously, "Damn it, do they know how to turn around?" They had deliberately turned around and waited with the engine turned off because they wanted to get rid of them immediately. But the motorcycle didn't move and even turned off. Damn it, they must have found out. Wait, we'll chase after them. The Burmese man hiding behind the driver's door said coldly. Although his voice was hoarse, the other two couldn't compare to his ruthlessness. He was Lena's most trusted and most capable subordinate other than the driver, Lana. He was responsible for all the people outside who needed to be dealt with. Lena had asked him to stay because she was afraid that the pursuers were General Minlai's men. His expression was cold and bloodthirsty, like a wild beast pouncing on its prey. Even the breath he exhaled was filled with the stench of blood. The engine of the motorcycle, which had its headlights turned off, suddenly increased in volume and rushed forward. The man's lips curled up coldly. 1, 2, 3, fire! Bang, bang, bang! Bang, bang, bang! Bullets rained down on the motorcycle that didn't slow down at all. His fingers tightened on the trigger, and he didn't stop even when the muzzle was burning and smoking. With such a dense barrage of fire, it was possible to break a person's limbs and bones and kill them on the spot. Then, the motorcycle did not slow down. It maintained the same speed as before and directly crashed into the jeep. At the same time, bullets were fired in the jeep's direction. On the mountain, Yi Qian passed through the dense forest. Even though the resilient branches whipped her wound that she had painstakingly bandaged, causing the tissues around the wound to tremble from the pain, she did not stop. She carried the rifle that Lu Ning had given her and nimbly climbed up a tree. He quickly grabbed the rifle from his shoulder and placed the barrel on the tree branch, moving it along with the high speed of the motorcycle. Chapter 47:55. The motorcycle remained where it was and continued to charge forward. F***CK. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Back off! The Burmese man, whose breath reeked of blood, finally realized something was amiss and shouted. There was no one on the motorcycle. The motorcycle had been tampered with. Even if they ran out of bullets, the modified motorcycle would not stop. The motorcycle, which only had one tail light, charged forward. After all, no one was controlling the motorcycle, so the modified motorcycle could not turn on its own. When it charged out of the corner, it fell off the cliff. Bang! A bullet was fired from the rifle in Yi Qian's hand. It pierced through the air and headed straight for the motorcycle's fuel tank. Bang! Another bullet rushed out of the barrel, following closely behind the first bullet. The first bullet hit the motorcycle's fuel tank, followed by the second bullet that was 0.01 seconds slower. Boom! The fuel tank exploded, and the second bullet shot through the fuel tank, creating sparks. The sparks ignited the oil in the fuel tank, and the sound of an explosion rang out. The fire instantly exploded like a cloud of light, illuminating the surroundings. Target found. The gun barrel on the branch moved, and Yi Jian aimed at the target with a sharp gaze. Bang! The third bullet rushed out of the barrel, and went straight to the target the crosshair was aiming at. Target, the back of the head. The bullet pierced through the hard skull, shattering the skull and rupturing the brain tissue. It then exited from between the eyebrows with bloody fragments of bone. The person who was shot didn't even have time to cry for help. He fell to the ground and died on the spot. Blood slowly flowed out, wetting the small stones on the mountain path. Gong! Gong! Another Burmese man saw that his companion had been shot and shouted at the top of his lungs, "There's someone on the mountain! There's someone on the mountain!" He raised the gun in his hand and fired blindly at the mountain. Bang, bang, bang! Bang, bang, bang! The bullets were so dense that they broke countless branches and shredded countless leaves. He fired wildly, not caring whether his bullets hit the target or not. Yi Qian was not in the direction he was shooting at, and his crazy actions gave her an opportunity. The motorcycle with the detonated fuel tank had fallen off the cliff. The glaring fire gradually disappeared, leaving only the flickering flames at the bottom of the cliff. The grass in the forest that was set ablaze by the cloud of fire made crackling sounds. The smell of burning trees mixed with the smoke of fuel and gunpowder drifted away with the mountain wind. The Burmese man whose aura reeked of blood was the fastest to hide. He stuck close to the mountain and looked up into the dense foliage. The shot was too fast, and he had dodged in a hurry, so he didn't see where the shooter was hiding. At least 2 people. There was one person on the mountain, and there was another person in front. It shouldn't be the Chinese girl that Lena wanted to get rid of. It was very likely that she was an assassin sent by the general. Only the general would have such capable people. Then, he saw his companion standing in the middle of the mountain road and firing wildly. Up ahead, there was no movement on the mountain. The Burmese man who reeked of blood suppressed his voice and shouted, "Yeah, come here! Come here quickly! They killed Gong, they killed Gong! I want to kill them! I want to kill them!" The man called, "Yeah" began to retreat, but he did not stop shooting. No matter how many bullets he had, he couldn't stop his crazy shooting. He only retreated because it was time to change the magazine. Yi Qian, who was hiding at an angle, moved his gun as the man moved. When the muzzle was slightly off to the right of the target's heart, he pulled the trigger with both hands that were stained with his own blood. Chapter 4756. Bang! The sound of a bullet rang out. The Burmese man who was shot in the chest let out a dull groan. He stopped shooting and fell forward. In the light of the burning vegetation, the Burmese man who was hiding close to the mountain saw his companion fall in front of him. His bulging eyes glowed fiercely as he picked up his submachine gun and fired diagonally. He knew where the person who fired the shot was hiding. Right at the diagonal. Bang 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 bang. Bang bang bang. The bullets were fired crazily again. Lu Ning listened to the gunshots that were fired towards the top of the mountain. He tightened his waist and rushed to the front of the jeep in a few strides. Without hesitation, he fired immediately. Yi Qian, who had jumped down from the tree, was hit by a stray bullet again. The bullet grazed her thigh and left a bloody mark on her leg. F***CK. Yi Qian, who was crouching close to the bush, cursed. Fighting alone was really difficult. Even the slightest bit of carelessness could cost you your life. Next, it was up to her partner. Yi Qian, who couldn't get up at all, even took a bite of the bush in her mouth. It hurt. Every wound hurt. She chewed on something to distract herself. A few pieces of gravel shattered by bullets fell down, and some of them hit the back of Yi Qian's head. The feeling of stones raining from the sky was not pleasant. Yi Qian endured the severe pain and slowly crawled forward while Lu Ning was shooting. Lu Ning had no choice but to focus on both sides. She didn't retreat. Instead, she moved forward. If Lu Ning didn't hit the enemy, then she would attack from the front. If the two of them worked together, they would definitely succeed. She just didn't know how far Lena would run. As for whether or not she could find Lena, she wasn't worried. There would be traces of her footsteps in the mountain. As long as there were traces, she would be able to find Lena. She had said before that no matter where Lena ran to, she would find her. Yi Qian's twisted body moved. She even held her breath. A few more bullets were fired. The bullets hit the hard rocks covered in moss and sparks flew. Yi Qian, whose head was still buried, took a deep breath of the smell of soil and rotten leaves and stopped crawling for a moment. In front of the jeep, Lu Ning opened fire again. His ammunition was limited, so he couldn't shoot as wildly as his opponent. Yi Qian crawled again. His hands gripped the bush tightly as he tried to pull himself up. Tisk! The gunshot wound on his shoulder tore, and the bullet seemed to have shifted. The pain made Yi Qian's abdomen tighten, and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He didn't injure any vital parts, but if he continued to lose too much blood, it would be dangerous. But she couldn't stop. When the enemy needed to reload, Yi Qian heard a low curse coming from below. His dark eyes suddenly lit up and he leaped up. His hands gripped the bushes tightly as he weaved through the gaps between the trees to find a spot to jump onto the mountain path. A cold voice drifted from the mountains into the ears of Lu Ning, whose arm was also covered in blood. He didn't reload. Quick! When the voice was heard, the expressions of the two people on the mountain path changed. Lu Ning was happy, but the Burmese man was cold. A woman's voice. It was the woman who had been abducted by the Chinese. She didn't die. Lu Ning, who had joy on his face, quickly turned cold. The other party didn't have a magazine to reload, and he also had no bullets in his gun. Damn it! Let's do it! Lu Ning threw away his pistol and rushed out. His eyes were filled with viciousness as he charged forward with his bare hands. The Burmese man, who had lost his magazine, quickly reacted. He raised his fist with a fierce expression and punched the black shadow that was charging at him. Chapter 47:57. A submachine gun without a magazine was just a piece of scrap metal. The Burmese man didn't want to bother himself with a piece of scrap metal. He clenched his right hand into a fist and pulled out his left hand. He held a dagger in his left hand and stabbed it towards Lu Ning, who was charging at him. Lu Ning knew a thing or two about the vicious thugs around drug dealers because he was also one of them. Daggers were weapons that they would never leave their side. His opponent had one, but so did he. The only difference was that his opponent wasn't injured, so his movements weren't affected. On the other hand, he was shot in the arm, so his movements were a bit sluggish. Bang! The two met face to face for the first time, and they both saw daggers in each other's hands. Lu Ning bent down and barely dodged the dagger in his opponent's left hand, but he didn't manage to dodge the opponent's fist. The fist smashed into his shoulder with such force that it felt as if a boulder had fallen from the sky. His entire right arm was trembling from the impact. Blood flowed down his right arm like small blood-colored snake. Left-handed. His opponent was left-handed. "Who are you people?" the Burmese man said coldly. His dagger was still in a stabbing position, and his right hand slowly reached for the wound on his waist. Lu Ning bent down and dodged the opponent's dagger. He used a strange posture to cut the opponent's waist. Holding the dagger that was stained with blood, Lu Ning glanced at the opponent's pants pocket and said coldly in Burmese, "You took Brother Kuen's money and gave it to Brother Kuen's enemy, and you even killed Brother Kuen's men. Tell me, who are we?" "Wu Jin Kuen's men." The corner of the Burmese man's mouth twitched coldly. "So you're Brother Kuen's men. Brother Kuen is so capable, he even sent his men to Lena. No wonder Brother Kuen brought his men up the mountain. We have a mole on our side." "Wrong, she was Brother Kuen's woman from the very beginning. How could she be a mole?" Lu Ning said as he took the initiative to attack. The opponent kept asking questions to buy time for Lena. Lena must have heard everything on the other side of the phone. He had already cooperated with her, and it was time to solve the problem. Both of them had daggers in their hands, and they were trying their best to knock the opponent's weapons away. Under the cover of the night, their fists and daggers were aimed at each other's vital points. It was a battle of life and death. Every move was filled with ferocity. In the mountains, Lena clenched her phone tightly. Her eyes were bloodshot. Wu Jinkuan's men. The Chinese girl who had pretended to be in front of her for months was actually Wu Jinkuan's subordinate. No wonder she learned Burmese in less than 3 months. She knew it from the very beginning. It's no wonder that you've always been able to complete my tasks well and have never been beaten up. So you've already undergone special training. Lena, who was holding the phone tightly, gritted her teeth, and a gloomy voice was squeezed out from her twisted lips. No wonder after returning from Laos, Wu Jinkuan started to make small movements. So he was the one who knew that I was the general's subordinate. Driver Lana obviously did not expect this, but after thinking about it, he felt that there was nothing strange about it. After whispering a few words, Lena's lips curled into a cold smile. Since she's one of Brother Cohen's men, there's nothing to be afraid of. Yes, Onwin's ability is something that even the general's men are wary of. Wu Jinkuan's men are overestimating themselves against Onwin. The driver, Lana, bent down slightly. His hoarse voice sounded like a venomous snake slithering across rough tree bark. It was creepy. Chapter 47:58. Lana said what Lena was thinking. As long as it wasn't General Minlai's men. Lena pulled off a leaf and rubbed it in her palm. She hung up the phone and walked into the depths of the mountain. She waited for Onwin to join her. The fight on the mountain path was still going on. The daggers in their hands were all knocked away, and they were fighting like two wild beasts. Fist to fist, leg to leg. Every attack was a fatal fight. More and more blood flowed out of the gunshot wound on Lu Ning's arm. The smell of blood mixed with sweat drifted into Onwin's nose. Onwin smiled viciously. Bam! Lu Ning's fist was about to hit Angwen's chest, but his arm was clamped down by Angwen. Angwen's cold voice came in the night wind. "You've been shot here, haven't you?" "Ah." The bullet wound was pressed down hard by his rough thumb, and his fingers dug into the wound. Even a man of iron and steel could not help but scream in pain. 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 The pain was so excruciating that his flesh was peeled off. Hearing Lu Ning scream, Onwin laughed viciously. "Does it hurt? Does it hurt a lot?" Onwin's thumb dug into the wound and dug into the flesh. In the darkness, Onwin's eyes were filled with the viciousness of a beast. Lu Ning screamed and only allowed himself to lose control once. He raised his leg and kicked Onwin's abdomen. "It hurts. I'm going to kill you too." At the same time, he grabbed Onwin's left hand that was clinging to the gunshot wound on his arm and twisted it. A roar came from his throat, clamping down on Onwin's left hand. Following the kick, Onwin's entire body fell back. Crack! The sound of dislocation rang out clearly. Onwin's left elbow was dislocated by Lu Ning. Angwen took a deep breath. It was very painful, but to Angwen, who was like a ferocious beast, he could still laugh, even if his arm was still in Lu Ning's hands. Angwen's knees were bent, and his eyes were filled with ferocity. He chose to engage in close combat where both sides would be injured. He used his bent knee to kick Lu Ning's abdomen. Lu Ning let go. His entire right arm was in so much pain that it was trembling. All the strength in his body seemed to be gradually draining away along with the blood flowing out of the wound. Taking a step back, Onwin laughed and breathed heavily. After moving his shoulders, he easily fixed his dislocated elbow. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, he sneered coldly. "Brother Cohen, all the people around you are useless. Is a dislocated elbow an injury? Kill me? Can you kill me?" His repositioned left arm swung a little, and he was able to move it freely. The muscles on his arm bulged inch by inch, and his valiant muscles and bones made people instinctively feel afraid. In the middle of the night, Lu Ning could not see how strong his muscles were, but he could feel the other party's abnormal strength. Lu Ning's right arm was twitching as he gasped for air. His abdomen was in so much pain that he couldn't even stand up straight. His ears were buzzing, and he knew who the Burmese man was. Onwin. Anwin was a professional assassin by Lena's side. She was the one who took care of all the bloody matters outside. 4 years ago, there was a temple massacre in the Golden Triangle, and Anwin was the main character. Against Onwin, Lu Ning did not have much confidence. These professional assassins all had abnormal training, and their pain nerves seemed to have been stripped clean. Even if they were shot, they would not feel pain. A mere dislocation was nothing to them. Lu Ning slowly stood up. He had no way out. He had to deal with this person. Female soldier Yi Qian, I'll leave Lena to you. Chapter 47:59. It seemed that not only was the killing intent of the profession stripped away, but also the ace special forces like Yi Qian. Yi Qian, who had also undergone abnormal training, pulled an old vine down from the mountain and happened to hear Lu Ning's scream. Yi Qian, who had pulled the old vine tightly, bent his legs, slightly adjusted his breathing, and ran towards Onwen. According to the plan, if there was only one target left, she would leave it to Lu Ning to deal with, and she would immediately go after Lina. But now, Lu Ning was no match for Onwen, so she had to turn back. Onwen attacked again, and he was in a hurry. Lu Ning wanted to kill him, and he also wanted to kill Lu Ning faster. The mole, who had stayed by Lina's side for 4 to 5 months and didn't show any signs of movement until now. He probably went after Lina. A mole who could hide by Lina's side for 4 to 5 months and pretend to be under his nose for 4 to 5 months without being suspected by anyone. Onwen subconsciously regarded Yi Qian as a strong opponent that was difficult to deal with. Lu Ning used one arm to block Onwen's kick, and the fist that came at his face made him hurriedly tilt his head to avoid it. Even so, half of his face was still hit by Onwen's fist. Even if it brushed past, Lu Ning only felt that half of his face had been cut by a knife. The pain in his face was so great that it affected the nerves in his eyes, and he closed one of his eyes. Even the speed of his resistance was temporarily sluggish. Onwen's mocking laughter sounded in his ears. Bang! His chin was hit by Onwen's iron fist, and Lu Ning, whose face was twisted in pain, had his head buzzing from this punch. Even half of his teeth were knocked away by Onwen. Lu Ning, whose eyes were bloodshot, knew that he had no chance of winning. Onwen's bent knee came at him again. Lu Ning roared and suddenly slammed into Onwen. His hands tightly wrapped around Onwen's waist and slammed into the side of the mountain road. There was a cliff on the other side of the mountain road. If he fell down, there would be nothing left of him. Onwen sensed Lu Ning's intention. After roaring twice, she didn't struggle to escape. She turned her arms into elbows and used her elbows to hit Lu Ning's back again and again. The back and ribs were all Onwen's main areas of attack. Lu Ning spat out a mouthful of blood onto Onwen's leg. He clenched his teeth with an unyielding and fearless fear of death. Even if his ribs on his back were cracked, he didn't let go. He hugged Onwen and chose to die together with Onwen. Even if he had to die, he would drag Onwen. He definitely couldn't let Onwen go after Yi Qian. Aside from Onwen, there was also a mysterious professional assassin who rarely showed himself. Now that Lina was on the run, the assassin must be with her. If Onwen was also there, even Yi Jian, who was from the special forces, would have a hard time dealing with him. The worst case Onwen, he couldn't let the worst result happen. At least one of them had to return alive. Yi Qian, it's up to you. The cliff was right in front of them. Before they could break free, Onwen attacked Lu Ning even more crazily. Yi Qian, who was running over, saw the two figures fighting at the edge of the cliff. Onwen wouldn't choose to die. It was Lu Ning who chose to die together with Onwen. The figure that was running over pounced over and grabbed Onwen's neck with his elbows. Then, he slammed Onwen to the side. Leave it to me. Onwen felt a strong wind coming from behind her. At that moment, due to her professional sensitivity, before the wind even reached her, all the cells in her body tightened as if she was facing a great enemy. Chapter 4760. But he couldn't resist at all. The moment his neck was strangled and thrown to the side, Onwen was relieved. Onwen was relieved that he didn't have to die with this madman. Yi Qian didn't let Onwen relax for long. The dagger in his left hand stabbed toward Onwen's temple like lightning. Onwen had difficulty breathing with his neck strangled. His waist was dragging Lu Ning, and his hands instinctively tried to resist. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his arm. Something sharp had stabbed his arm, and it was moving toward. Angwen's pupils suddenly constricted as he struggled with all his might. He kicked Lu Ning, who was still hugging his waist tightly, and waved his bleeding arms, trying to hold Yi Jian behind him. His palms were quite large. Once Yi Qian's head or neck was clamped by him, his fragile throat would be vulnerable. Yi Qian didn't give Onwen a chance to resist. He stabbed the dagger he got in the dungeon deep into Onwen's temple. Crack! Onwen's hard skull couldn't stop the sharp tip of the dagger. Onwen's eyes bulged as the sound of rusty iron scraping the ground came from his throat. The moment Yi Qian lowered his head and pushed the dagger forward, his struggling hands grabbed onto Yi Qian's hair. Before Onwen died, he gave Onwen a final blow. He grabbed onto Yi Qian's hair tightly. The skin on Yi Qian's temple was so tight that it seemed like it was going to break from the skin on his cheek. "Ah!" Yi Qian shouted in a low voice. He twisted the dagger in Onwen's temple twice. The struggling Angwen's abdomen suddenly twitched, and a gust of air rushed out from his muscular chest. His bulging eyes gradually lost their luster as his chest stopped moving up and down. Only his face was still as ferocious as before. Lu Ning was still hugging Angwen's waist tightly. He was hugging her mechanically. Yi Jian used the bloody dagger to cut off Angwen's black hair. It took a lot of effort to pry Lu Ning's hands away from Angwen's waist. Cough, 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 cough. Lu Ning, whose hands were trembling, couldn't stop coughing. Every time he coughed, a mouthful of blood came out of his throat. He fell to the ground and smiled bitterly at Yi Qian. "Sorry for the trouble." Panting heavily, Yi Jian glanced at Angwen, who was lying beside him. He pressed on the gunshot wound on his shoulder and tried to calm himself down. "What are you talking about? I didn't expect it to be Angwen. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have left you alone." Onwen, a famous professional killer by Lena's side. "It's hard to kill him." Panting, Yi Jian sat up with his hands on his knees. "How are you? Can you still hold on?" "I can hold on." Lu Ning, who tried to sit up, fell back to the ground and lay down. Even raising his hand was difficult for him. He panted heavily and said, "Please help me. The car is not broken. Let's drive to where Lena got off." His ribs were probably broken and his internal organs were probably injured. Lena didn't want to tell Yi Qian anything. Yi Qian, who got up, could hear his voice trembling. He walked over and helped Lena up. "Wait for me in the car. I'll take care of Lena." "No way." Lena's legs were still fine. He swallowed the blood in his throat and said, "There's another professional killer by Lena's side besides Onwen. He's as good as Onwen. I'll go with you." Chapter 4761. Before Lu Ning could finish his sentence, Yi Jian suddenly pressed on his back. Caught off guard, he sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. "Broken ribs, it's not suitable for climbing. Wait for me in the car." Yi Qian smiled and retracted his hand. "I'll try to avoid the people around Lena. After dealing with Lena, I'll immediately retreat." Then he went to the dead Ongwen's side. He searched her body several times and took out a black mobile phone from her trouser pocket. It turned out to be a military satellite phone. That's right, the mobile phone signal in the depths of the Golden Triangle Mountain can't be fully covered. If you want to contact at any time, you can't use a normal mobile phone. The military satellite phone seems to be provided by General Minlai. Since she wants to escape, why would Lena use a military satellite phone that can track her whereabouts at any time? Is she not afraid that General Minlai will directly send a helicopter into the mountain to kill her? With Lena's cunning, it's impossible that she didn't think of it. Unless Yi Qian moved his wrist and put the mobile phone in his pocket. Then he walked to the other Burmese man who had been killed earlier. He searched but didn't find a second military satellite phone. Yi Qian, who was pressed for time, didn't delay any longer. He helped Lu Ning and walked to the jeep parked on the side of the road. Unless Lena has to use a military satellite phone, she has to use it for the time being even if she is afraid of General Minlai. After helping Lu Ning get in the car, Yi Qian started the car and asked, "Can you still contact Captain Deng? There's something I need to trouble Captain Deng." For personal matters, Yi Qian can only contact Captain Deng during the short drive. Captain Deng was overjoyed when he received Yi Qian's call. After listening to Yi Qian's request, Captain Deng said with a serious face, "Okay, as long as you can reach the border tomorrow night, I will arrange for you to return to Xiang City that night. But you have to be prepared. You can't get hurt. If you get hurt, you have to stay in Sherry City for treatment." "Okay." Yi Qian curved his lips. His sweet smile was like a lotus blooming in the morning dew. Lu Ning, who was sitting next to him, slightly closed his eyes and couldn't bear to look. Not hurt? He was already injured. He had been shot in the shoulder and was bandaged with a scarf that he had picked up from somewhere. The scarf was also soaked in blood. Yi Qian's call was quickly relayed to the military. Major General Yang found out that Yi Qian was safe and sound. He was now pursuing his second objective, which was to kill Yi Qian and return to the country. In that instant, Major General Yang's tense heart finally settled down. Tomorrow, when Xia Jinyuan came to ask him when Yi Qian would return, he could directly reply that he would go to Xiang City and wait there. He would see him. Major General Yang, who was asked by Xia Jinyuan every few days, felt that he had developed a phobia of the phone. Every time the landline rang, he had the urge to run away, fearing that it was Xia Jinyuan calling again. Now that he could finally give a definite answer, he was no longer afraid of the phone ringing. Yi Qian returned the phone to Lu Ning. He looked around the car and said in a low voice, "See if there's anything useful in the car. I plan to treat the gunshot wound simply first." Lena is prepared to leave with the car. There should be usable supplies in the car. She's also used to preparing some things for emergency use. Lu Ning took the phone and put it back in his trouser pocket. His heavy gaze locked onto Yi Qian's shoulder wound. "How long can you hold on?" "I can hold on until I return to the country. Don't worry, it just looks scary. The pistol's small caliber bullet doesn't penetrate the flesh. The bullet is stuck in the flesh and didn't hurt the bone. Although it hurts a little, I can endure it." She held the steering wheel with both hands and operated it flexibly. If it weren't for the blood on her body, it would be impossible to tell that she had been shot in the shoulder. She was able to act as if nothing had happened after being shot. She was also someone who was willing to risk her life. Chapter 4762. Lu Ning put down the seat and slowly climbed to the back seat to look for usable supplies. Soon, he had to find bandages for bandaging wounds, painkillers, and unopened iodine for disinfection from the hidden compartment in the middle of the back seat. Lu Ning's expression was extremely complicated when he got these simple medical supplies. Holding the iodine bottle tightly, he sat in the back seat and asked with a dark expression, "Did you know that there were these things in the car from the beginning? The people around Lena all commit murder and arson whenever they go out. It's normal to have these in the car. They haven't even opened the bottle of iodine. It seems that the people who often use this car are quite powerful. The last time she came back from Laos, the car she took had a medical box. If she hadn't seen it before, she wouldn't have asked Lu Ning to look for it. She knew, but she didn't deal with it immediately. Was she afraid that he would see her wound and stop her from chasing Lena? If he found out that she was shot like him before getting in the car, he would definitely stop her or even not let her get in the car. Yi Qian didn't let Lu Ning see her wound. It was a pity that she didn't have a strong painkiller. She simply disinfected the wound and blocked it with sterile gauze. She only asked Lu Ning to help bandage it when she wrapped the bandages and took 2 painkillers. The whole process took less than 3 minutes. It took a total of 6 minutes to bandage the gunshot wound on Lu Ning's arm. Then, Lu Ning saw her take out 2 submachine guns and several magazines from the trunk of the jeep. Lu Ning's chest swelled with pain. "It's not safe to stay in the car. Take it and find a place to sleep. I'll be back." She handed over the submachine gun. Lu Ning, whose chest was aching, grabbed her wrist and said slowly, word by word, "Xiao Yi, Captain Deng said that you have to ensure your own safety before taking any action. You're not suitable to pursue at all. If you really want to pursue, I'll go with you. Yi Qian looked at the big hand that was holding her tightly and smiled faintly. Brother Lu, Lena must be killed. This is a mission I have to carry out. You can't stop me. It's been 40 minutes since Lena entered the mountains. I have to take the opportunity to catch up. But you don't know where she escaped to. No, I know. He took out his phone from his pocket. I'll know through this. This time, the voice that came out of Yi Qian's mouth became a gentle voice. Lu Ning was so shocked that he loosened his grip. Yi Qian took the opportunity to withdraw his arm. Brother Lu, wait for me to come back. Wait. Shocked, Lu Ning stumbled out of the car and handed over a small, short flashlight. You're still missing this. Thank you. Yi Qian took the flashlight and waved his hand. He carried the submachine gun and entered the mountain. She really lacked this. With it, she could save on the phone's battery. Inside the mountain, Lena received a call from Onwin. Onwin told her that the 2 people sent by Wu Jinkuan had been killed, but he was the only one alive. When Lena learned that Wu Jinkuan's men were sent by Wu Jinkuan and not General Minlai's men, she didn't venture too deep into the mountains. Now that she knew that her tale had been taken care of, Lena's tense expression eased considerably. She and Lana got out of the car and prepared to leave in a car. She asked Onwin to pick her up in the mountains. Yi Qian, who ended the call, didn't expect Lena to go down the mountain again. Her face was slightly pale, but the corners of her lips curled up slightly. After finding a rock, Yi Qian set up the submachine gun and waited for Lena to walk into the trap. Chapter 4763. Yi Qian didn't intend to force herself. If she could use a weapon to solve a problem, she definitely wouldn't choose to use her fists. Just like when Lena went down the mountain, Yi Qian thought of using a submachine gun to deal with Lena. 10 minutes later, the military satellite phone beside her vibrated. Yi Qian turned her head to look. Lena was calling. She calmly took the phone, then used the flashlight Lu Ning gave her to flash 3 times at the top of a tree. Lena's cold voice came from the phone like a snake's tongue. Pay attention to your surroundings. We'll be there soon. She said we. Obviously, there was someone around her, but she didn't know who it was. She had seen all of Lena's bodyguards before, and the most loyal one was Onwin. They were inseparable all day long. Those who didn't know would think that they had some sort of relationship, but in reality, there was no relationship at all. They were just loyal to each other. Lu Ning mentioned that Lena had a professional assassin by her side. He rarely showed himself, but would clean up any loose ends that Lena hadn't dealt with properly. He never gave Lena a headache, rarely showed himself. Yi Qian wasn't sure if she had seen him before. Professional killers were more difficult to deal with than mercenaries, and they were also good at hiding. The special training they had received was comparable to that of special forces. This kind of people usually didn't show their faces and did everything in secret, so it wasn't easy for others to discover their identities. Usually, the people who discovered them were people who were about to die. Yi Qian turned off the flashlight and quietly hid behind a rock, patiently waiting for Lena to come over. After another 10 minutes, Yi Qian heard the sound of something that sounded like a mountain beast stepping on rotten wood. Bit by bit, she patiently approached. Yi Qian coughed softly. Onwin's coughing sounded exactly the same. Even if one listened carefully, one wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Onwin. A voice came from the 11 o'clock direction. Yi Qian turned on the flashlight again and shone it in that direction. He saw Lena with her head down and her hands parting the branches that were blocking her way. Without pausing for even a second, Yi Qian pulled the trigger. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang, bang. They weren't shooting in bursts. Instead, they were shooting in a full automatic manner. The bullets were densely packed as they shot forward one after another. Lena had said we, but in reality, she was the only one in front of Yi Qian. How many people were with her? Who were those people? Yi Qian didn't think too much about it when he learned that Lena had brought people over. Her first target was Lena. Once she dealt with Lena, the mission would end. As for the others, if she saw them, she would naturally deal with them. If she didn't see them, she wouldn't go into the forest to look for them and delay her return home. Dealing with Lena was the most important thing. That was the final chapter of this entire mess. The anti-narcotics police in Sherry City had targeted Lena as their second target, and General Minlai as their first target. Now that the Golden Triangle drug lord had died in Lena's village, and Lena was General Minlai's subordinate. Tonight, General Minlai had coincidentally sent people up the mountain to deal with Lena. The three parties had triggered a war. Wu Jinkuan had been taken care of by General Minlai's men, and Lena, who had escaped, would naturally have someone tell General Minlai that she had been taken care of by Wu Jinkuan's men. Throughout the chaos, China had been a bystander. No one would suspect that China was involved. No one would have thought that the chaos that General Minlai had been working so hard for the next half a year was all because of the anti-narcotics police. As a Burmese warlord, China couldn't do anything to General Minlai, but they could still make him busy. Chapter 4764. Lu Ning, who was hiding in the bushes by the side of the mountain, opened his eyes in shock when he heard the gunshots. He pushed down the long grass that was blocking his vision with his hands and looked up the mountain with his bloodshot eyes. Gunshots were fired, and it was one-sided. Was it Yi Qian who fired? Or was it the people around Lena who fired? Lu Ning, who felt a dull pain in his back, took a bite of the wild grass that tasted bitter. He chewed as he stared at the top of the mountain without blinking. In the mountain, Yi Qian fired, and Lana fired at the same time, cutting off Yi Qian's shot. Both sides exchanged fire. Lu Ning spat out the hard grass that he had chewed until only the tendons were left. He clenched the wild grass on both sides tightly, and his breathing became heavier with each breath. Damn it! Nothing must happen to her. If her shoulder was not injured, she would have a great chance of winning against the professional killers around Lena, but she was injured. In the mountain, Lena, who had fallen along the bushes, widened her eyes and stared at the darkness in front of her in disbelief. Ong-Wen, her voice was low and out of tune, and even breathing was difficult for her. You betrayed me, you. Before she could finish her sentence, the sound of gunfire once again drowned out her voice. This was Lana's second counterattack. Yi Qian, who was hiding behind the rock, turned his body and fired blindly in the direction of 10 o'clock. The bullets were fired from that direction, so the person who fired was the us that Lena mentioned. There was only one person. Lena only brought him with her when she escaped into the mountain. Did this mean that she had met the other mysterious professional killer around Lena? Amidst the gunshots, Yi Qian heard the sound of something heavy being dragged. Someone was trying to hide with the heavily injured Lena. Yi Qian, who was hiding sideways, dashed out and fired in all directions with the direction of 11 o'clock as the center. The gunshots stopped and the mountain was silent. The only sound that could be heard was the rustling of the leaves in the wind. Lana dragged Lena to the side of the mountain slope. He wanted to cover at least 3 bloody holes in Lena's body with his hands, but he knew that his efforts were in vain. He could not save Lena at all. He took off his t-shirt, tore it open, and bandaged Lena's leg that had been shot twice. Bang bang! Bang bang! The bullets in front of her seemed to slice through the top of her head, splashing the withered leaves above her into the air. A few withered leaves even landed directly on Lena's body. Rana, who was sweating profusely, didn't stop bandaging. He's not Onwin, no. It should be someone close to the general. Sound. Lena knew that she did not have much time left to live. Her hands that were stained with her own blood gripped the corner of Lana's shirt tightly. Her slightly tanned hands, which were not well maintained, clenched tightly, as if that was the only way she could survive. She wanted to ask why it wasn't Onwin. Their voices were exactly the same. Rana could not answer because he did not know either. It was Onwin's voice, but he was sure it wasn't her. If it was not Onwin, how could he explain the voice? Kill them, kill them! Lena, who was bleeding from her mouth, ordered with a ferocious expression. Kill them all! Kill them all! I'll be waiting! Wait for me! She didn't want to die, she didn't want to die. She wanted to wait for the person who wanted to kill her to die first. She was waiting. Rana took out the pistol that was pinned to Lena's waist. Hold this and kill them. Lena was shot 3 times, but none of them were fatal. The moment Yi Qian's flashlight suddenly shone on her, the cunning Lena suddenly felt a great shock and subconsciously bent over. Chapter 4765. On the other hand, Yi Qian was wary of the other professional killer beside her. When he realized that Lena was alone, he immediately chose to shoot blindly. This allowed Lena to survive for the time being. She was still alive for the time being. She had been shot in the abdomen and 2 in the leg. If she wasn't immediately rescued, she wouldn't be able to survive the night. Yi Qian, who had followed the sound of clothes tearing, had already left her original shooting spot. She didn't want to continue fighting, but she first needed to confirm whether Lena was still alive. Was the sound of clothes tearing to stop Lena's bleeding? Then, she couldn't leave immediately. Lana wanted to lure away Yi Qian, who was chasing after him, but he had failed twice. He also didn't have any submachine gun bullets left, so Lana chose to fight. After giving up on shooting, he bent his body and approached Yi Jian step by step. He was a professional killer and Yi Jian was a professional soldier. If the two of them met in a hand-to-hand fight, it would definitely be a bloody battle to the death. So, Yi Qian didn't want to fight at all. She had a gun and 2 reloaded magazines. Why would she choose the worst way to fight? The gunshots in front of her stopped, but Yi Qian dashed out. As she approached the slope of the mountain, she continued to shoot. Lana had no choice but to jump away from her suppressive shot. The movement he made undoubtedly told Yi Qian where he was right now. Lana was completely being chased by Yi Qian, and even his breathing was disordered. Difficult to deal with. He had encountered a very difficult person. The other party knew about him, but he didn't know about the other party. Lana, whose eyes were as gloomy as water, closed his eyes slightly. He pulled out the scimitar that the Kachin clan always carried with them. He was going to gamble. He jumped out of his hiding spot again. Yi Qian, who had heard the movement, fired again. At the same time, a sharp scimitar pierced through the bullets and flew straight in Yi Qian's direction. It didn't hit a vital point. It only needed to stab into any part of the opponent's body. The scimitar flew straight at him. Yi Qian only heard a whooshing sound in the air, as well as the sound of leaves being cut by something. He instinctively leaned to the side. The next second, he heard the sound of something cutting into a tree with a bang. The scimitar that had flown over and pierced into the tree. Although the knife was fast enough, it could not be faster than a bullet. With a cold expression, Yi Qian emptied the last few rounds of his submachine gun. When he turned around and hid behind a tree, he had already finished replacing the old and new magazines. Yi Qian, who was used to fighting in the dark, had extremely sharp senses. She heard the faint but persistent breathing coming from not far away and smelled the strong stench of blood in the mountain breeze. The professional assassin beside Lena had been shot. It wasn't that the other party wasn't strong, but that they didn't think that Angwen was fake, and they had taken the initiative. Lana covered the area below his ribs where he had been shot. His expressionless face revealed a pained expression. This time, he was probably going to die. There were still a few bullets left in the submachine gun. He had wanted to save them for a last stand, but now it was a problem. Gasping for breath, Yi Qian moved closer to Lena, who was holding her breath. Lena, who didn't even have the strength to hold the pistol, heard very light footsteps. She leaned against the tree, a strange smile on her face, and used the last of her strength to raise the loaded pistol. Go to hell. With a twisted face, she gritted her bloody teeth and fired at the front. You haven't gone to hell yet, so how can I go to hell? A slightly cold voice floated over. Lena's pupils suddenly contracted. Her hand holding the gun was tightened, and she was forced to shoot towards the top of the mountain. The piles of bones in the cave behind the mountain are waiting for you to accompany them. I haven't sent you there myself, so how can I go to hell? The voice was bone-chilling, with a sharpness that pierced into the soul. Lena spat out 2 words. It's you. It's you. The girl who was kidnapped from China. Chapter 4766. Lena panicked. She used to be the ruler of these human goods. If she wanted them to live, they could live. If she wanted them to die, they had to die. She had the final say in the entire process. She had the final say in the entire village. She had already arranged everything that happened tonight. She had the final say in who could leave and who had to stay. No one dared to question her, and everyone obediently followed her orders. However, in just a few hours, the entire world seemed to have been turned upside down. In the past, a human good who had been wronged by her, who she could beat and scold whenever she wanted, was actually standing in front of her and trying to take her life. Ha 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 ha, Lena laughed. Every time she laughed, blood gushed out from her wounds. The 3 gunshot wounds reminded her of the fact that they were all caused by this human good, who had once lived because of her. You are not Wu Jingquan's people. Speak. Who sent you? Sent you to my side. After laughing, Lena's breathing became much weaker. She held on to her last breath and used all her strength to move her hands towards her waist. Come closer. Come closer. Tell me who are you? Lena, who had her Kachin clan saber by her waist, had already touched the hilt of the saber. Her usually charming voice was now like a piece of torn cloth, rustling in the wind. It was devoid of life. Yi Qian slowly bent down and moved his hands together. He accurately and ruthlessly pressed down on Lena's unruly right hand. Of course I'm Brother Kuan's people. Otherwise, how would Brother Kuan know that you're the general's people? You think Brother Kuan didn't suspect anything? No, Brother Kuan suspected you a long time ago. He just didn't have any evidence. That time in Laos you killed 30 of Brother Kuan's subordinates. The evidence was sent to Brother Kuan's hands. Brother Kuan's people? Lena, whose hands were pressed down so tightly that she couldn't move, had a twisted expression on her face like an evil witch. In the cave behind the mountain. Brother Kuan's people. Can you speak? Who are you lying to? I'm not lying to anyone but you. Yi Qian smiled, but his eyes were still cold. I'm just lying to you. He let go of Lena's right hand and touched her waist. He felt something hard. Come closer. It's the same if I tell you. I'm someone sent by Brother Kuan. She pulled out the knife from her waist. The sharp tip of the knife moved and stopped at Lena's injured leg. You want to stab me with this knife? I've been by your side for nearly 5 months. Do you think I don't know anything about you? I'll tell you closer so that you can stab me with this knife. In my opinion, it's better to stick it into your body. In the darkness, in the intricate growth of the shrubs, the branches and leaves were like monsters baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, trying to drag Lena, who was screaming in pain, into hell bit by bit. So many girls died in your hands. So many bones in the mountain behind the mountain are all evidence of your murder. Even if I stab you thousands of times with this knife, it won't be enough to appease the hatred of those innocent lives. Lena was in so much pain that her neck straightened. She was in so much pain that her breath was stuck in her throat. She was in so much pain that Lana, who was bandaging himself in the dark to stop the bleeding, tightened his grip on the submachine gun that only had 3 bullets left. He encountered a strong opponent that he had to deal with carefully and not be careless. He had to seize the opportunity to kill a strong opponent. Chapter 4767. The knife in her thigh slowly twisted, first clockwise, then counterclockwise. Yi Qian, who was holding the knife, listened to Lena's screams that were stuck in her throat. His eyes were cold. "It hurts, right? I know it hurts. So many girls have died at your hand. Just suffer a little more." He exerted strength in his wrist, and the twisted knife pierced through Lena's thigh. The sharp tip of the knife reached the blood-stained ground covered with a thick layer of fallen leaf. "Kill me! Kill me! Tch! Kill me!" It was too painful. It was so painful that Lena's pupils dilated. No matter how unwilling she was, she didn't want to live in such pain. Her breath was stuck in her throat, and she was going to die of 1,000 cuts. She hated it so much. She hated that she didn't see through people and was bitten in the end. She hated it. She hated it so much. Lana, kill her. Kill this Tch quickly. Lena, whose limbs were twitching, moved her lips. Her eyes, which had lost much of their luster, were once again filled with ferocity and hatred. "Kill her, Lana. Kill her quickly." Yi Qian originally only wanted to fight a quick battle. However, when he mentioned the cave full of bones in the back of the mountain, he couldn't resist the urge to use violence against violence. He couldn't resist the urge to torture Lena and let her have a taste of the pain of having her flesh cut open. "Of course I'll kill you. My mission is to kill you." Yi Qian, who was speaking coldly, didn't pay full attention to Lena. She was alert and kept an eye on her surroundings. The professional assassin who was supposed to be guarding Lena didn't leave. Instead, he hid and waited for an opportunity to shoot. Why was Lena talking so much before she died? Apart from wanting to know who she was also using herself as bait. If she succeeded, she could leave this place alive. If she didn't, she would die with her. And your people definitely can't kill me. So what if you're using yourself as bait? I can kill you, but you can't kill me. The hand holding the knife plunged deeper. Lena, who was almost out of breath, was so angry at Yi Qian's words that blood spurted out of her mouth. Tch. She actually knew what she and Lana wanted to do. This damned bitch. The strange sounds coming from his throat became more and more frequent, and Yi Qian revealed a cold smile on his face. The Kachin people's sabers were similar to watermelon knives, except that they were slightly curved. They were all handmade and were so sharp that they could even kill a cow or a tiger, let alone kill a person. Yi Qian stabbed Lena's leg with all his might, and only pulled the knife out slowly when it was about 4 centimeters deep. At this time, Lena was already in so much pain that her limbs were spasming, and blood was flowing out of her mouth one mouthful after another. Her pair of eyes, which had been smiling all day, were filled with viciousness, were glaring. She was unwilling, she was really unwilling. She did not die in the hands of Wu Jinquan or the general. She thought that she would be able to escape tonight. Next, she would hide abroad for a while and wait for the news to die down before contacting the people in the country. She had arranged all her escape routes and was only waiting for herself to finish. In the end, Lena's eyes widened unwillingly. She let out a final, heart-chilling "aolo" sound from her throat. She actually died at the hands of a human good that she could have dealt with just a lift of her hand. How could she die in the hands of a human? How could this be? Who are you? Who? She wanted to know who killed her. She wanted to know who this human good who killed her was. Only then would the unwillingness in her heart fade a little. Chapter 4768. A weak voice came from the top of the slope. Yi Qian, who had been hiding behind Lena, pulled out a long knife and pressed it against Lena's blood-stained neck. "You've done so many bad things that even 100 deaths won't be enough to appease your hatred. Who am I? Don't you know best?" The long knife was pulled out quickly, and the sharp blade cut across Lena's neck. Lena didn't get a quick death until she died. She didn't know who killed her. The Burmese drug dealer Lena, who the Chinese anti-narcotics police had no clue about and didn't even know of her existence, but who had caused the Chinese anti-narcotics police to investigate day and night for more than half a year, fell silently in the vast mountains of the Golden Triangle. Lena, who was lying in a pool of blood, was just one of the many drug dealers in the Golden Triangle. She didn't even have the right to be called a drug lord. If it weren't for General Minlai, she wouldn't even have the right to know Wu Jinquan. Yi Qian, who had avoided the bullets in front of him, lay prone in the uneven bushes filled with the smell of rotten leaf. He fired continuously in the direction of the bullet. She still had a magazine. Including the one she was using now, she had at least 40 bullets left. Her opponent was shooting single bullets. She didn't have many bullets left. Yi Qian was very calm, but he didn't let his guard down. Against a professional killer with a gun, even if the other party didn't have a gun, he couldn't let his guard down. There were thousands of ways to kill a person without a gun. She had to be on guard against the enemy hiding in the dark. With her shoulder injured, she wasn't suitable for close combat. Once the enemy got close to her, it was unknown who would live and who would die. But now, at least she had a good chance of winning. Yi Qian didn't want to fight in close combat, but this was the only chance for Lana to leave alive. This Burmese man, who was born and raised in the mountains, was getting closer to Yi Qian every time he fired. When all 3 bullets were fired, he was very close to Yi Qian. Large leaves whipped towards Yi Qian, and the submachine gun in his hand was hit hard by the leaves. Lana, who was hiding behind the leaves, was like a giant beast, pouncing towards Yi Qian with murderous intent. This was a professional killer, not a mercenary. Yi Qian, who was sent flying, crashed into a tree and landed heavily on the ground. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if all his organs had been displaced. Without giving Yi Qian any time to catch his breath, Lana charged at him again. His ferocious attack, his steel-like body smashing straight at Yi Qian. Yi Qian raised his leg to kick, but he actually felt a dull pain in his leg bone. Trees, shrubs, and the slope of the mountain trembled. The sound that came out was like 2 fierce tigers pouncing on each other. Lu Ning, who heard the commotion, could no longer wait. He gritted his teeth and picked up the submachine gun that Yi Qian had given him. Without hesitation, he rushed into the mountain. That was the sound of fighting. The professional assassin by Lena's side was already used to killing in the jungle. Xiao Yi was injured, so he had to go over and help her. The trees, shrubs, and rocks on the mountain cut into his skin like crazy. There were even branches left behind from the chopped shrubs. The sharp branches pierced into his flesh with a screech. Yi Qian, whose eyes were red, blocked the hands that were trying to strangle him. He bent his leg and kicked hard at the opponent's crotch. Once, twice, thrice. He had clearly kicked the most painful part of the man, but the man was like a diamond shield protecting his body. His arms pressed down with the same force, completely unaffected. The difference in strength was too great. Yi Qian, who couldn't block with brute force, suddenly let go of his hand and stabbed at Lana's eyes. Even though it was dark in the mountain, he could still see the murderous glint in his eyes. Chapter 4769. Pucci, his index finger stabbed into Lana's left eye like a knife. Yi Qian could even feel his finger digging into the smooth, wet eyeball. This time, Lana was finally in pain. It was so painful that he made a sound from his throat. He raised one of his hands that was wrapped around Yi Qian's neck and tried to break Yi Qian's hand that was digging out his eyeballs. Yi Qian bent down again and kicked Lana's crotch. He raised his head and hit Lana's nose with his head. "You're asking for it." There was a rustling sound that sounded like poison slithering through sand. Yi Qian knew who it was. Driver Lana. He did not expect the other mysterious professional assassin by Lena's side to be Driver Lana. Yi Jian took advantage of the fact that she had hit Lana twice in a row, causing his strength to stagnate. She finally managed to get away from him. Similarly, she did not give Lana a chance to catch his breath. She grabbed a stone that she had casually grabbed and threw it at Lana's face. Lana, who was hit twice in a row, roared. His right eye was completely blinded by Yi Qian's finger. If his reaction had been 3 seconds slower, his eyeball would have been gouged out by Yi Qian. Yi Qian, whose back was bloody from the tree thorns, did not have the chance to throw the stone at Lana's face before he was kicked in the chest. Lana's swift and violent movements had the strength of a beast, and the kick landed right on his chest. This kick almost dislocated Yi Qian's organs. His chest felt like it had been hit by a heavy hammer. While he tasted blood in his throat, he was sent flying and fell hard. Yi Qian's chest was hit by a bumpy stone again. She was hit so hard that her vision turned black. She suppressed the taste in her throat, and a mouthful of blood rushed into her mouth unexpectedly. His mouth was full of blood. Yi Qian stood up. Amidst the swaying leaves on the mountain, Yi Qian also pounced on Lana. His fist was aimed at Lana's temple. The force of his punch was very strong. It was all the killer moves of the Snowfield Brigade. Blood kept gushing out from the muzzle of the gun on his shoulder. The wound caused by the tree thorns seemed to have been injected with painkillers. He attacked fiercely as if he did not feel the pain at all. A Special Forces soldier who had walked out of the elite Special Forces would never admit defeat. Lana, who had been blinded in one of his eyes, endured the intense pain and dodged. If there was light at this moment, he would definitely have nightmares in the middle of the night because of Lana's bloody face and ferocious expression. He covered his injured right eye as he was knocked into the tree trunk. His voice was fierce as he said through gritted teeth, "You are not one of Wu Jingquan's men. You are sent by the Chinese side. Narcotics police? Border defense police?" Yi Qian, whose murderous intent had been completely ignited, spat out a mouthful of blood from Lana's punch. His hands trembled as he touched his back. When his fingers touched a long, hard object, Yi Qian's expression turned grim. He grabbed the tree that had pierced his back. Yi Qian pursed his lips, and a tree branch that was about 6 centimeters long and 3 centimeters stained with blood twitched violently. He threw the blood-stained branch aside and faced Lana's ferocious attack. At a time like this, the ferocity of the two had been completely aroused. If they wanted to live, the other party had to die. Bang, walla, bang, in the wild swaying leaves in the mountains, two figures with different physiques fought fiercely. As a female soldier, Yi Qian's muscles and bones were all beaten until they made bang-bang sounds, but she did not let Lana gain much of an advantage. She also beat Lana until all the bones in his body made clack-clack sound. "Who is the one who wants to die? Who wants to die?" She shouted in Burmese and then used her elbow to hit Lana's chin. Lana's face was deformed, and several of his teeth were broken by Yi Qian. At this moment, Yi Qian was no different from a beast. Chapter 4770. Her fists rained down on Lana's face and chest. When she threw out another punch, her wrist was grabbed by Lana. She heard him shout, "You're a Chinese Special Forces soldier." "Wrong. I'm Brother Kuan's man." Yi Qian, who answered fiercely, saw that her wrist was about to be broken by Lana. Suddenly, she jumped onto Lana in a very strange position. It was impossible to tell what she did. She leaned on Lana's shoulder like a monkey, then used her legs to clamp Lana's neck. Her waist was bent at an unbelievable angle. She shouted fiercely and used her legs to clamp Lana down. She used all her strength to clamp Lana's neck, and used the strength of her legs to break Lana's neck. Lana, who had a murderous look in his eyes, clawed at Yi Qian's legs with both hands. His hands were like steel bars as he clawed at Yi Qian's legs until they were bloody. Lana, who had walked the line between life and death for many years, knew that he was in a predicament. If he did not get out, his neck would really be broken. Yi Qian's legs were pulled open by him bit by bit. The bloodied Yi Qian did not give him a chance to escape. She twisted with all her might. Even when the flesh on her calf was torn off by Lana's fingers, she did not cry out in pain and let go. Her moves were completely different from Lu Ning's. Lu Ning mainly focused on defense, while Yi Qian was full of killing moves. Every move was fatal. Yi Qian, who had clawed at her calf until it was a bloody mess, gritted her teeth and grabbed with her free hands. She needed a fulcrum that could allow her to twist her leg. Her hands grabbed the root of the growing shrub. After a violent shake, Yi Qian's entire body suddenly spun, and an extremely crisp crack was heard. The thin branches and leaves of the shrub were still swaying, and countless leaves fell. She could still hear the rustling of the leaves, but it felt like the mountain was extremely quiet, so quiet that she could even hear low murmurs. "That's right, I'm a Chinese Special Forces soldier." A low voice was heard, telling Lana, whose head was twisted at a strange angle. "Fight bravely, not afraid of sacrifice, protect the socialist motherland, protect the peaceful labor of the people, and never betray the motherland under any circumstances. I will definitely abide by the oath and will never go back on it." This was her belief, this was her perseverance. He would not regret it even if he died 100 times. Lu Ning, who had climbed up the mountain with difficulty, heard the oath on the day he joined the army. It was different from the oath they took when they joined the police, but the meaning was the same. Yi Qian raised his head and looked in the direction of the rustling tree branches. He used his hands to pry open his legs, which were too stiff to listen to his brain, and said in a cold voice, "The second target has been dealt with, Lena." Lu Ning stopped and gave a military salute to the female soldier who was speaking in front of him. Police Officer Lu Ning from the Narcotics Department of Cheli City. Got it. It was easy to go up the mountain but difficult to go down, not to mention that both of them were injured. Yi Qian did not let Lu Ning help him up. Instead, he supported himself against a tree and slowly got up. His legs were trembling violently, and his knees were so weak that they could not support his entire weight. He was completely relying on his tenacious willpower to support himself. "Mission complete, we can return home." Every word carried a bloody and clear sound in the mountain breeze. It was relaxed, calm, and so fearless. Lu Ning, whose eyes were wet, gently patted the young female soldier's shoulder. "Okay, let's return home." He was injured and covered in blood. He walked from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain until he was completely exhausted. Who knew how many layers of cold sweat had appeared on his body? The car parked by the side of the road started up, and the bright headlights were like sharp swords that split the darkness. They drove bravely and fearlessly into the distance. Far away was their hometown, far away was their family, far away was their home. Chapter 47-71. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Xia Jinyuan, who never smoked, lit one cigarette after another and sat alone on the training ground. There were at least 20 cigarette butts by his feet. He didn't smoke much. He just put it to his mouth and lit it, then held it in his hand and let the cigarette burn out. G3, who was invited out by the sentinel, watched for at least half an hour. The captain of the Snowfield Brigade, Lieutenant Colonel Xia, didn't even notice. It was only when Xia Jinyuan walked up to him that he noticed. The red cigarette between his fingers flickered a few times. He threw it into the training ground and put it out with the tip of his shoe. Xia Jinyuan looked up. "Why aren't you asleep yet? Don't you plan to exercise tomorrow?" His voice was so hoarse that it shocked him. G3 walked closer and sniffed. "Why do you smell like shampoo? You didn't drink alcohol and change to shampoo? Get lost." Xia Jinyuan lifted his foot and kicked him. "You're disturbing my peace." G3 sat down and smelled the shampoo smell even stronger. He stared at Xia Jinyuan's hair, which was unruly even with a crew cut. He couldn't help but laugh. "Don't tell me you came out halfway through washing your hair." G3 was right. Xia Jinyuan's nerves stiffened. He looked up and touched his hair that was a little prickly. "I washed it. I think I washed it. Washed my ass. Your hair smells like shampoo." G3 laughed until the corners of his mouth twitched. He even touched Xia Jinyuan's hair. It's still sticky. Go back and water it. It'll foam up. He probably didn't wash it. Xia Jinyuan touched his hair that was indeed sticky. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. That smile made G3's heart tighten. At first, I really thought you were asleep. The sentinel walked around and realized it was you. He didn't dare to approach. He walked around again and you were still there. He was worried and walked around a third time to find me. He was afraid that you would take things too hard and commit suicide. G3 looked carefully at his captain, who was as firm as a flagpole. He lowered his voice. Why? Are you still thinking about Yi Qian? Aren't we going to her school tomorrow? Now that I've seen her, my lovesickness has been cured. I was just washing my hair when I saw her standing there covered in blood. She was mumbling something under her breath. The amount of blood that was flowing out was scary. After 3 minutes, she was completely drained of blood. Xia Jinyuan, who was washing his hair, suddenly had this image flash through his mind. His heart ached so much that he almost thought he was going to die young. He froze up and even forgot if he had finished washing his hair. This was also the first time he had encountered a situation where he didn't even know what he was doing. G3, who had been called out by the sentinel, was so frightened by the sentinel's anxious appearance that his knees went weak. He thought that their captain was really going to commit suicide and ran all the way over. When he saw this, he was relieved. He didn't disturb them, and even had the sentries circle around this area, standing to the side to accompany them. He didn't dare to come over and disturb him. He was afraid that if he disturbed too much, he would frighten the soldier who always stood straight like a spear and upright like a flagpole into bending over. Just like that, they accompanied each other until it was late at night. If you go tomorrow, you might be able to see her. How can you not attend the graduation ceremony? G3 didn't know how to comfort him, but he had to say something. How could he just accompany him? Xia Jinyuan smiled faintly. His incomparably handsome face looked as if it had been drenched in yellow lotus juice. Even his eyes were filled with bitterness. King feel that I'm being a little unreasonable. You're right. I look like I'm being ruthless to her, but in reality I'm being ruthless to her under my nose. Once she leaves my sight and walks out of my range, I'll be scared. Old Een, I'm really King scared. I'm so scared that I'm scared to death. Chapter 47-72. This, I'm scared, scared G3 so much that his heart trembled. He asked in a trembling voice, Don't tell me you're not going to let her join our team? Hey, don't say that. I did think of that just now. Xia Jinyuan laughed so hard that G3 felt like his heart was about to give him a heart attack. He held his breath and retorted, Don't make the decision. It's not up to you. Yes, it's not up to me. So, I'm just thinking about it. I'm just thinking about it. Putting aside my identity as a soldier, I'm just thinking about it like an ordinary and selfish man. Tell me I'm the one who led her on this journey. If I'm scared, who's going to support her in the future? I can't be scared. Even if I'm scared, I have to endure it. I can't let her see that I'm a coward. She's been chasing me wholeheartedly and wants to fight side by side with me. As for me, I keep telling her that I'm just waiting. When I turn around and tell her that I'm King scared, she'll definitely raise her hand and slap me. So, I have to endure it even if I'm scared. I have to tell her that she's really brave and that Special Forces soldiers have to be like her. What's there to be afraid of bleeding? Our clothes are thick and can cover the bleeding. After a few days of rest and drinking a few bowls of pork liver soup, it'll make up for it. Old Een, I'm really not afraid of bleeding. I'm just afraid that she'll lose her life. His light voice floated like a bubble that couldn't be poked, blown by the wind, or burned by the sun. The slightest movement would cause it to shatter into pieces. G3 felt like his heart was being pierced. He closed his eyes and buried his face in his rough palms. He rubbed his face fiercely and wanted to peel off the layer of old skin on his face. Xia Jinyuan looked down at him. Hearing the rustling sound of his face being rubbed, he nudged G3 with his elbow. Are you wiping your face with a steel wire ball? Will sister-in-law still acknowledge you when you go back tomorrow? Do you still need someone to comfort you? G3, whose calluses were so thick that his face looked like a steel wire ball, looked up and glared at Xia Jinyuan, who still had the mood to tease him. Can't you spit out some ivory? I was sitting down and meditating, but you came over to disturb me. I haven't settled the score with you yet. Go away, don't comfort me. Which brat is patrolling tonight? Go wash the toilet tomorrow. G3 choked. They couldn't tell if their captain, who couldn't be investigated by ordinary people, was all right. He said that he had something to do. Look at the way he spoke, it was no different from usual. The moment he opened his mouth, he could make people choke. When he said that he was fine, the words scared and bleeding were all abnormal. Why would he be afraid? He had never been afraid before. That wasn't fear. That was the most normal worry a man would have for the woman he loved deeply. It wasn't because he was a soldier that he didn't have the right to worry about his girlfriend. Xia Jinyuan saw that G3's expression kept changing. One moment, he looked like he was constipated, and the next moment, he looked like he had internal injuries. He raised his hand and patted his comrade's shoulder. I think I probably have some endocrine disorders. I need to get a few doses of Chinese medicine to adjust it. One moment I feel anxious and the next moment I feel sad like Lin Dayu. When I calm down and think about it again, I feel that nothing is wrong and that I'm just tormenting myself. Whether it's fear, blood, or death, I'll accept it. I'll accept it all. As long as she likes it, I'll accept it. Don't worry, I won't let her join the team. She'll definitely join our team. In the future, when I become her captain, I'd like to see if old Yang still dares to hide it from me. The last sentence was said through gritted teeth, causing Major General Yang, who was in Beijing, to inexplicably shiver. Chapter 47-73. G3 also felt that Lieutenant Colonel Xia was probably suffering from endocrine imbalance. He gritted his teeth and said, "You really should have done a month of Chinese medicine. If you continue like this, I will be tossed around by you until I have a problem." But you can't be considered a problem. Your girlfriend disappeared for a few months. As a boyfriend, if you don't worry at all, that would be abnormal. Your situation is normal and can be understood. During the day, you manage the army. At night, you have some time to worry about your girlfriend. It's normal. Young man, don't let your imagination run wild. Tomorrow, when you go to Xiang City, obediently serve Xiao Yi. When you come back in a few days, I guarantee you'll be radiant. When the hustle and bustle of the day and the night fell, Xia Jinyuan, as a man, also shed the strength of the soldier during the day and revealed the most tender side of a man. This tenderness was condensed from flesh and blood. At its core, it was a man's deep love for a woman. He was a soldier and also a man. Naturally, he would be fragile. Therefore, it had nothing to do with being pretentious. As a man, he was worried about his girlfriend's safety. Tossing and turning, he couldn't sleep at night. It was normal. G3 didn't think it was pretentious. He heard a man's deep longing for a woman. How long do you plan to sit? You have a flight tomorrow. Let's sit for a while. What's there to sit for? It's already past 2 in the morning. Don't worry. Let's wait. Wait for what? Wait for the call. If there's news, it'll only happen in 1 or 2 nights. Are you sure? Get lost. Don't disturb me. In the field, the captain of the Snowfield Brigade, Q King, and G3, who only accepted the temporary position of instructor, swept away the wise and powerful image they had during the day and started a conversation that was worse than a 3-year-old child. At 3 in the morning, Captain Deng, who was sleeping at his desk, received a call again. The entire anti-narcotics brigade was surrounded by a sea of joy. Their hero had returned to the country. Quick, helicopter to pick him up. All medical personnel are in place. Quickly arrange it. Quick. In the anti-narcotics brigade, Captain Deng's bell-like voice reached the ears of all the anti-narcotics policemen. At that moment, the entire brigade's office building boiled over. The heroes in the black and white photos on the photo wall that quietly accompanied their comrades seemed to smile. The road ahead was still long. Some people would fall, while others would advance. Those who advanced would fight to protect the peace of the nation. It was 5 minutes past 3 in the morning. Xia Jinyuan, who had been sitting on the field, felt his phone vibrate. G3's eyes widened and his mouth moved silently. Did you really get a letter? It wasn't a real letter. The smile on Xia Jinyuan's face widened, and he looked like a gentleman. In the middle of the night, a sentry from a certain military base silently looked at the captain, who was not sleeping in the middle of the night and was so energetic that he was actually running. He could not help but criticize in his heart, "Why are you running in the middle of the night instead of sleeping? Did you hit your head?" Major General Yang felt refreshed. After being chased by Xia Jinyuan every day for months, he finally got his revenge in the wee hours of the morning. As for the injury, Yi Qian and Lu Ning did not even mention it to Captain Deng, let alone Major General Yang. After driving out of the mountains and returning to the bustling city, the first thing Yi Qian did was to go to a small pharmacy in Myanmar to get a bunch of medical supplies. It was not a big deal to look for medicine in a small border town covered in blood. The staff at the pharmacy did not even ask anything. They calmly handed over the medicine and received the money. Relying on the medicine they bought, the two seriously injured men made it to the border and found an informant who could send them out of Myanmar. At 5 in the afternoon the next day, the sky was still bright and the sun was still warm. A helicopter took off from the border and flew straight to the Best People's Hospital in Sherry City. The two medical personnel accompanying the helicopter saw the two injured men. Even though they were used to seeing people die, their eyes turned red. Chapter 47-74. The medical personnel who came to the rescue were from the Border Armed Police Hospital, an experienced doctor and a nurse with 14 years of experience. Both of them had seen too many gunshot and knife wounds, and it could be said that they could already maintain a straight face. However, when the soldiers of the Border Police Hospital carried the two injured onto the helicopter, they saw that they were tattered beyond recognition. Large patches of brown blood stained their clothes, and then saw the wounds on their bodies. The hands of the doctor and nurse trembled as they opened the medical kit. How badly were they injured? The male soldier had 3 broken ribs. He had a high fever because he had not been treated in time. The bullet had deviated and there were signs of scratches around the wound. His facial features were so swollen that it was impossible to see his original appearance. There were large abrasions on his hands and feet. The patient was in unbearable pain and suspected to have a spleen injury. This was still considered good. When the female soldier's clothes were cut open, the nurse with 14 years of experience could not bear to look and turned her head slightly. On her back there was no intact skin. It was full of wounds and dried blood. The white bandage that had been bandaged at the last minute had turned black. When the bandage was slowly untied, the doctor gasped slightly. The female soldier's back had countless punctures and scratches. The deepest wound was 3 to 4 centimeters deep. It was a blunt object that caused the flesh to overturn. The right back of her waist was suspected to have been punctured by tree branches. There were dark brown stains on her flesh that needed to be washed deeply to remove the impurities. She had been shot in the shoulder. The bullet had penetrated deep into her flesh. As she had been shot for too long, the area around the wound was inflamed and swollen. Her jaw was injured violently. There were countless thin bloody marks on her face. It was suspected to be caused by small sharp objects such as thorns. Her legs were scratched by someone. 10 bloody finger marks were clearly visible. Some of the skin tissue had been forcefully torn off. Even if the wound healed, it would leave permanent scars of skin tissue depression. 2 broken ribs. There was no pain when she pressed on her abdomen. However, there was a large purple bleeding wound on her chest. It was suspected that she had been hit violently. Her body temperature was high, but her mind was very clear. The doctor looked at the slender fingers that were covered in blood. He sighed and said, "Okay, we won't give you painkillers for the time being. However, you still need them on the operating table later." "Okay, I'll cooperate later. I can't do it now. I'm afraid I'll fall asleep." Yi Qian, who had taken painkillers all the way back, smiled slightly. "Doctor, I'm sorry to put you in a difficult position." "I'm not making things difficult for you. In the end, you're the one who will suffer." The doctor in his early 40s sighed. "If you can't bear it, you have to tell me. There's still half an hour before we reach Cheli." Yi Qian and Lu Ning came from a remote place, but they were able to reach the Burmese border as soon as possible. It would take them 40 minutes to get to Sherry City by helicopter. The doctor carefully checked their injuries and requested that they be admitted to the hospital immediately for surgery, but Yi Qian refused. She had to return to Cherry City tonight. Even if she had an operation, she had to complete it in Cherry City. Lu Ning knew the reason and insisted on returning to Cherry City. Thus, after being yelled at by Captain Deng nodded in agreement. It was not easy for Yi Qian to get the chance to go back to Cherry City for the surgery. He was really afraid that after the painkiller injection, his tense nerves would relax, and he would accidentally oversleep and miss his own graduation ceremony. She had to go back to attend the graduation ceremony. This was the agreement between her and Captain Xia. Lu Ning still gave her a painkiller. He was on vacation when he returned to Cherry City. Even if he slept until dawn, he wouldn't make any mistakes. However, Lu Ning was a righteous man. He didn't sleep and stayed with Yi Jian. Chapter 47-75. Seeing the two like this, the doctors and nurses silently cleaned and disinfected the shallow flesh wounds for the two. They waited at the border for a full 14 hours. In other words, the two endured the severe pain and drove the vehicle for 14 hours. The two didn't faint during the whole process and relied on their willpower to support themselves. If it was an ordinary person, not to mention a lot, fainting 3 to 5 times was possible. The two were on and 4 in the helicopter. At 6:15 in the evening, they arrived at the People's Hospital in Cherry City. It was specially used for emergency operations to provide a landing pad for helicopters. Dressed in casual clothes, Captain Deng and 30 anti-narcotics policemen welcomed their heroes back. When they saw the two people coming down from the helicopter, they saw the two people push away the medical staff and accompanying border police. Even if they were seriously injured, they still walked over with their backs straight. At that moment, everyone present was moved. Time was difficult, and they used their own blood to carve an epic that belonged to them. "Salute!" Captain Deng shouted and gave a solemn military salute to the returning heroes. "Thank you for doing your best to protect the country's peace." In response, the two people also gave a solemn military salute. "Thank you for guarding the rear, which allowed them to return today." On the way to the operating room, Yi Qian used her willpower to support the last of her consciousness and said to Captain Deng, "Captain Deng, don't forget our agreement." "Rest assured. I didn't forget." Captain Deng held Yi Qian tightly and solemnly replied, "I will definitely send you back to school to attend the graduation ceremony." "Good, thank you, Captain Deng." Yi Qian, who was lying on the hospital bed, waved her hand and gently closed her eyes with a smile. Her face was relaxed. She could return to Xiang City very soon. "Captain Xia, are you waiting for me to come back?" "You must be waiting for her to come back." How could the two of them go back on their word when they had already made an agreement? Unless there was a mission at hand and they had no choice but to violate it. When they arrived at the operating room, Yi Qian chose local anesthesia. Local anesthesia was limited. She said that she still had a very important matter to deal with. General anesthesia would make her brain unable to stay awake, and she would make mistakes. The surgeon gave this uncooperative female soldier a slight headache. But what else could they do? They cooperated. In the operating room, it was always the patient cooperating with the doctor. Today, it was the doctor cooperating with the patient. The effect of local anesthesia was limited. The doctor chose to remove the bullet and suture the wound first. Then, he cleaned and sutured the two deep puncture wounds on the back. At the same time, the wounds on both legs were treated simultaneously. From 6:20 p.m. to around 10 p.m., all of Yi Qian's injuries were treated. Her fractured ribs were bandaged and fixed. When Captain Deng saw Yi Qian being wheeled out of the operating room, he was alarmed by her sweaty hair. The doctor helplessly told Captain Deng what had happened before the operation. Captain Deng held back his reprimand and used the word nonsense to express his distress. Far away in Xiang City, Xia Jinyuan walked past his former alma mater. Now, it was also Yi Qian's alma mater. Step by step, he slowly walked. In front of him were scrolls of Yi Qian shuttling through the campus. Xiao Ye's favorite place is the library. I don't know where she gets so much energy from. Every time she finishes training, the other students are so tired that they're lying on the ground, but she's still energetic enough to study in the library. I've been to the library 10 times, and I've seen her 10 times. In the future, she will become your soldier. You can cherish her and cultivate her well. You can't harm her because of personal matters. The department head who was taking a stroll seemed to have guessed the inner thoughts of his favorite student. His words had a hidden meaning, but he didn't point it out. People who listened knew what he was talking about. Several times, he came to find Yi Qian. The department head clearly saw it all in his heart, but he didn't point it out. Chapter 4776. One was in the army, the other was in the military academy. The two were so busy that they didn't see each other once a year. Of course, excluding training during the holidays. In short, the two met at most twice a year in the school. They were both ambitious young people who knew the rules and were not afraid of them getting into trouble. As the department head, even if he saw through a little, there was no need to point it out. Now that this year's top student, Xiao Yi, was about to graduate as the department head, he still had the responsibility to remind her a few words, lest the two young people be together for a long time and lose their sense of propriety. Xia Jinyuan could naturally hear the hidden meaning in the department head's words. Jun Yen slightly smiled. You can rest assured. She and I both know what to do. We won't mess around and won't make a mistake. That's good, that's good. I still believe what you said. The department head couldn't help but smile and nod. Then he looked at the fourth-year students passing by the campus from time to time. His smile slightly faded. Tomorrow at the graduation ceremony, she will speak as the representative of the outstanding students. Although she is not there, her position is still reserved. I hope, as you said, she will definitely rush back. She will come back. She will definitely attend the graduation ceremony on time. Xia Jinyuan answered the department head with certainty, letting the department head eat a pill of reassurance. The night was getting deeper and deeper. The stars in the sky were so bright that nebulas surged. The Milky Way was like a silk, too beautiful to behold. A civil aircraft that rose to an altitude of more than 8,000 meters flew over the Milky Way. It flew over beautiful mountains and rivers, flying from Yun Province to Xiang City. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the plane landed on time. While the passengers waited patiently, a special passenger in a wheelchair was pushed by an anti-narcotics policeman and a medical staff left in advance. For this special treatment, Yi Qian secretly made up her mind that there would never be a second time. This time, no matter how much she insisted, Captain Deng and the anti-narcotics police refused to let go. They must have sent an anti-narcotics policeman and a medical staff to accompany her. In the end, even the leader came forward and persuaded Yi Qian in every way possible. What really made Yi Qian agree was Major General Yang's call. As a result, Yi Qian was accompanied by a narcotics officer and a paramedic. Although the flight crew did not know what had happened, it did not stop them from admiring Yi Qian as he left in a wheelchair. The airport at 2 o'clock in the morning was very, very quiet. There were only 2s and 3s of people at the connecting gates. Although Yi Qian and the other 2 were all wearing casual clothes, they were still quite eye-catching when they came out in a wheelchair. The Yun Province Anti-Narcotics Police contacted Xiang City Airport in advance, and Yi Qian came out through a special passage. Yi Qian, whose back was injured and his ribs were broken, only rested for a short while on the plane. He was injured in many places, so he rested with his eyes closed the entire time. Logically speaking, he should be very tired, but he was full of energy and didn't feel sleepy at all. The medical staff in the same field teased him. He's still young after all. Yi Qian pursed his lips and smiled. She did not care about her youth because there was someone hidden in her heart. He was the source of her energy. Before they came out of the passage, Yi Qian's gaze was already subconsciously searching for a figure that she could recognize even if it was a hazy back. The narcotics officer, who found her gaze searching, asked with a smile, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for a person, a very, very important person." Her voice gradually lowered. The very, very important person in her heart had already appeared. Tall and straight, towering like a mountain, with a smile on his face, he was striding towards her. "A very, very important person, I found him," Yi Qian said in a low voice. Even when the anesthesia had worn off in the middle of the operation, the Special Forces soldier who did not shed a single tear. At this moment, his eyes were glistening with tears. That very, very important person had come. He had come to her side. Good. Chapter 47-77. I turned my prayer wheel and walked across mountains and rivers just to see you again one day. I went through hardships and broke through cliffs just to see you again one day. Seeing the tall and straight figure striding over, and seeing the gentle smile at the corner of his mouth, Yi Jian stretched out her hands and made a gesture of welcoming and hugging him. Reunion is the most beautiful thing. Hug me, Captain Xia. It was really tiring to walk all the way here. If she didn't have faith and perseverance, she might have collapsed halfway. Her faith was an oath under the flag, and her perseverance was him. A man who was very important to her and loved her very much. Xia Jinyuan walked faster and faster. He lost his composure. He had never lost his composure like this before. He even staggered as he walked. He saw that the girl he loved deeply had returned. When her gaze found him, her black eyes were filled with tears. Her smile spread from the corners of her mouth and finally stopped in her eyes. There were tears and laughter, and there was a longing for the boat to return to its harbor. He always knew that he was her harbor. "I'm here to pick you up, little fox. I'm here to pick you up, my love." Even the narcotics police officer who was pushing the wheelchair knew that the young man was a soldier, judging from his quick pace, his handsome face, and the military aura he exuded. He was Yi Qian's lover. The two of them looked at each other with burning affection. There was no need to ask to know their relationship. The narcotics police officer bowed slightly and smiled. "I can give up my position. Congratulations, Yi Qian, on returning home safely." Only by waiting and waiting would one be able to return home safely. Yi Qian nodded and said, Yes, she had returned home safely." The narcotics police officer was very perceptive. He smiled at the medical staff and stopped pushing the wheelchair forward. He simply stood there and waited for the young man to come over. Xia Jinyuan walked closer and stared at his lover in front of him without blinking. He saw her face that was much thinner, her body that was so thin that it seemed like it could be blown away by a gust of wind, and the new wounds on her face. His heart ached badly. He knew it, he knew it. Even an ambulance was sent to pick her up. She definitely wasn't injured, as Major General said. With Little Fox's strength, why would she need a narcotics police officer and a medical staff to accompany her back to Xiang City if she was injured? Why would she need a wheelchair? He bent down and gently greeted his lover with the most tender side of an iron-blooded man. There was no need for the medical staff to remind him. Xia Jinyuan knew that he couldn't hug her tightly. Even though he wanted to hug her tightly, he had to endure. He carefully opened his strong arms and hugged her very gently. "I'm here to pick you up, baby." A kiss of love and pity landed on Yi Jian's temples. Both of them were entangled with each other. Even the air was filled with sweetness. "I'm back, Captain Xia." Yi Qian could only hug Xia Jinyuan back with one hand. His injured shoulder could only be lifted to the same position as Xia Jinyuan's shoulder. It couldn't be lifted any further. The accompanying medical staff wouldn't allow it. "I didn't break my promise." This was the second sentence Yi Qian said when they met. Xia Jinyuan's eyes suddenly turned sour and he almost cried in front of everyone in the hall. Fortunately, he didn't lose his composure. "I know. My little baby has always been a man of his word. How could he break his promise?" As he spoke, a tender and delicate kiss fell on her hair. "So, I've been waiting for you to come back." Chapter 47-78. The tall man used his strong and powerful arms to hug the slender girl. He was like an immovable mountain that supported the girl. There was no wind, no rain, and only a warm sun in the sky, protecting her and keeping her safe for the rest of her life. The anti-narcotics police and accompanying medical staff did not disturb the reunion of the lovers. They could not bear it. The reunion hug ended with reluctance. When Xia Jinyuan got up, he lightly kissed Yi Qian's cheek before introducing himself to the anti-narcotics police and accompanying medical staff. "I am Yi Qian's boyfriend. Thank you for escorting her all the way. Yi Qian is our Yun province's #1 hero. Escorting her is what we should do." The anti-narcotics police stretched out their hand. Even if the two just politely shook hands, they could feel the gun calluses in each other's palms. Only people who hold guns all year round will have thick gun calluses. It seems that Xiao Ye's boyfriend is not simple. After shaking hands with the medical staff and thanking them, Xia Jinyuan pushed Yi Qian out. Xia Jinyuan was not the only one who came to pick them up. Political Commissar Yu and the director also came. The ambulance was also waiting for Yi Qian to come out and immediately send her to the hospital. Political Commissar Yu arrived at Xiang City Airport from the capital 2 hours ago. He did not return to the military academy and was waiting at the airport. Xia Jinyuan and the director arrived an hour ago and came with the ambulance. After learning that Yi Qian was injured, Xia Jinyuan's face was cold the whole way. The department director also thought for a long time, but even when his mouth was dry, Xia Jinyuan's face did not improve. The department director, who knew Xia Jinyuan's temperament, wanted to point at his nose and scold him. Just as he was about to scold him, the cold-faced Xia Jinyuan looked straight ahead and said in a low voice, "In our line of work, it is normal to get injured. There is nothing to worry about. It's fine as long as she recovers. As long as she is alive, everything is fine." So just now, he wasted his breath? The department director choked and his fingers trembled. He said angrily, "Then why did you make me worry for so long? I see that you're quite worried about Yi Qian, so I might as well let you talk to him." The dean wanted to beat his chest. You brat, you brat. You're already a lieutenant colonel, why do you still like to make me angry like before?" Let me tell you, if I really get sick from being angered by you, you better come to the hospital and serve me. No, come to the hospital and serve me and Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi has me to take care of her, and you have master's wife to take care of you. I'll only be a hindrance, Xia Jinyuan replied with a smile. Other than his voice being slightly colder than usual, everything else seemed normal. No one noticed that his hands were tightly clenched, and no one noticed the deep fear in his eyes. Hurt. His girl was hurt. His injuries were serious and an ambulance was needed to pick him up at the airport. Where was she hurt? Was she afraid of going on a mission alone without him by her side? How much had he suffered? How much had he suffered? Even though he knew that injuries were inevitable when he went out to fight, his heart still ached. After the pain subsided, he rejoiced that he was only injured. Fortunately, he was able to return safely. That's good, that's good. As long as she came back alive, that's good. That's really good. From the moment he learned that Yi Qian was hurt to the moment he saw Yi Qian, Xia Jinyuan spent a lot of effort to stabilize his voice and emotions. It was already very good that she was able to return to his side alive and well. That was already very good. He didn't ask for much. He just wanted her to be able to come back alive every time she went on a mission. Hearing her voice, seeing her smile, that was enough, that was enough. Chapter 47-79. Getting hurt is nothing, bleeding is nothing, we will recover after we recuperate. As long as we are alive, everything is fine. Outside, Political Commissar Yu and the director had been waiting for a long time. Because the two leaders didn't know what mission Yi Qian was carrying out, they didn't know whether Yi Qian's injury was light or heavy. Even if there was an ambulance, they didn't think too much about it. If military academy students were injured or fractured during training, there would also be an ambulance to send them to the hospital. When the two leaders saw Xia Jinyuan pushing a wheelchair out, and then saw the outstanding student Yi Qian sitting in the wheelchair, the two leaders felt that their hearts were about to jump out of their throat. No longer waiting in place, they rushed over and surrounded Yi Qian. Quick, quick, see if she's okay. Even though their hearts jumped to their throats, the two leaders who had seen the wind and waves were very calm. They first let the medical staff check on Yi Qian, rather than surrounding Yi Qian and asking questions. Yi Qian didn't expect that when he returned to Xiang City, even Political Commissar Yu and the department's director would be alarmed. His face was as red as fire. Political Commissar, Director, I don't have any big problems, I'll be fine after a few days. You don't have the final say if you don't have any big problems. Yuan, you accompany Xiao Yi to the ambulance. Political Commissar Yu said in a deep voice. No matter how much they asked, it couldn't be solved. Let the medical staff examine him first. If there was anything else, it wouldn't hurt to talk about it later. The director only dared to gently pat Yi Qian's hands. He didn't dare to pat his shoulders. He was wearing a fitness short-sleeved shirt. Under the thin fabric, traces of bandages could be seen. Looking at his arms, there were bruises and purple, looking scary. His face was the same, full of small and new injuries. He didn't dare to pat his hands too hard. The back of his hands were injured. A good person went out and came back a few months later with injuries. The director's mood. It's fine if he didn't say it. Let Yuan accompany you to the car. We'll talk to the two comrades who sent you back, then we'll come back to see you. After the director finished speaking, Xia Jinyuan hurriedly pushed Yi Qian away, followed by 3 medical staff, each in a hurry. Along the way, the medical staff from Yun Province traveled together. When the medical records were handed over to the medical staff of Xiang City, there was a gunshot in the shoulder. It was already inflamed before the operation. There were 2 branches in the back. It was also inflamed before the operation. His ribs were broken. The patient insisted on local anesthesia and did not use painkillers for the time being, so there was only disinfection in the drip prescription and no painkillers. Following the medical staff's instructions, Xia Jinyuan gripped the wheelchair armrests so tightly that the veins on the back of his hands bulged and his knuckles turned white. Xiang City's doctors flipped through Yi Qian's medical records and found that there was no painkiller in the medicine. Therefore, they raised a question. After receiving a reply, Xiang City's doctors gently sighed. They all say that soldiers are made of iron. Today I have seen it for myself. That's right. Even Professor Liang, the chief surgeon in our hospital, was shocked by the patient's request. Towards the end, he relied on his willpower to survive. He's so young, but his willpower is so tenacious. It's really admirable. Xia Jinyuan listened attentively. Even without the explanation of the medical staff from Yun Province, he understood why they did not use painkillers and did not choose general anesthesia. Because his silly girl was afraid that she would go back on her words, afraid that he would wait too long and rush back. Don't worry, I'm fine. The back of his hand with prominent knuckles was covered by something soft. She patted the back of his hand and said with a happy voice with a light smile, "The doctor said that with our physical fitness, while others take 10 days to get better, we only take 8 or 9 days. We'll recover very quickly." There were medical staff carefully accompanying you all the way, and there was also the careful care of the flight attendants. The wound did not split open and did not bleed. It's all very good. Chapter 4780. Captain Xia certainly wouldn't believe her if she said it was too good. Yi Qian blinked her eyes, her voice gradually becoming smaller. It's just a little painful. Xia Jinyuan, who was reluctant to scold her, was even more reluctant now. He acted coquettishly towards her, hating that he couldn't dig out his heart and put it in her hands. My silly girl. All his heartache turned into a sigh. Painful, how could it not be painful? Next, you have to be obedient. Whatever the doctor says, you have to comply. Where you feel uncomfortable, where it hurts, you have to immediately tell me. Don't force yourself. Now, we'll go to the hospital first and let the doctor do a detailed examination. His gentle and deep voice made a nurse who was accompanying him blush slightly when she heard it. Yi Qian naturally listened obediently. If she didn't listen obediently, she was worried that Captain Xia, who rarely gets angry with her, would get angry. After the medical staff finished explaining, Political Commissar Yu, the director, and the escorting anti-narcotics police were almost done talking. Seeing that Yi Qian had already boarded the ambulance, the anti-narcotics police smiled and said, "We'll catch tomorrow morning's early flight back to Yun Province, so we won't disturb you in the city. Although we really want to attend Xiao Ye's graduation ceremony, we have a lot of things on hand. We can only regretfully miss it. I'll go over and say hello to Xiao Yi. Next, I'll have to trouble your school." Yi Qian knew that the anti-narcotics police, who sent her back to Xiang City, would catch tomorrow morning's flight. Because Yi Qian needed to be sent to the hospital, the anti-narcotics police only said a few words and ended the call. When the ambulance door closed, Xia Jinyuan saw the anti-narcotics police, who fought on the front line, give a military salute. Yi Qian, who was talking to the doctor, didn't see it, but he saw it. On behalf of Yi Qian, he returned the military salute. After arriving at Xiang City, Yi Qian didn't need to worry about anything. Everything was handled by Xia Jinyuan. The hospital's examination results were very good. The wound didn't bleed or split open. Yi Qian saw that her lover, who had been accompanying her, finally relaxed. The corners of her mouth curved into a smile, her eyes curved like the moon. "You." The gentle big palm rubbed Yi Qian's head. Yi Qian used her left hand to gently pull at the corner of his clothes. Her clear black eyes were filled with pleading. What did she ask for? Xia Jinyuan understood. She was injured like this and still wanted to return to Xiang City. First, it was because of the agreement. Second, she didn't want to miss the graduation ceremony. Tomorrow. But she and her 4-year comrade in arms had to part ways. She hadn't come to school for the whole semester. If she didn't go to the graduation ceremony, then it really couldn't be justified. When the doctor heard this, his expression changed several degrees. The political commissar and director who were waiting outside were very happy at first. It was great news that their wounds were fine after a bumpy journey. When Xia Jinyuan informed the two leaders on behalf of Yi Qian that Yi Qian would be attending the graduation ceremony the next day, the two leaders shouted, "Nonsense!" in unison. When Yi Qian, who was waiting inside, heard this, his heart trembled. Once again, he felt that it was a wise decision to push Captain Xia out to inform the two leaders in advance. At this time, it all depended on her boyfriend's strength. Obviously, as her boyfriend, Xia Jinyuan was very strong. He also asked the doctor to come forward and explain to the two leaders that their faces were ashen. They resolutely disagreed with Yi Qian's departure from the hospital tomorrow. Half an hour later, Xia Jinyuan was the first to enter the hospital bed. Full of helplessness, he saw the girl who was already sleeping soundly on the bed. His helplessness disappeared. Forget it. It was rare for his little fox to be willful. He'll just let her be. After carefully understanding the situation from the hospital, the two leaders learned that Yi Qian had already fallen asleep. They didn't come to disturb her again. They urged Xia Jinyuan to take good care of her, and told him that if he didn't take good care of her, he could ask the caregiver to help. Chapter 4781. How could Xia Jinyuan rely on someone else to take care of his lover? Naturally, he expressed that he could do it alone without any difficulty. Yi Qian, who had endured all the way back to Xiang City, finally fell asleep with the help of painkillers. She was injured all over and couldn't lie down to sleep. The bed was tilted 45 degrees, so she could only sleep slightly on her side. Fortunately, the wound on her back and shoulder were both on her side. Although her ribs were broken, she could still sleep slightly on her side. She was just not used to it. Worried that Yi Qian would press on her wound when she slept, Xia Jinyuan didn't sleep. He sat by the bed and gazed tenderly at the sleeping person. He silently described her beautiful face, and his empty heart was finally filled. Her voice and smile had long scattered all his panic, fear, and he obtained unprecedented satisfaction. His slender fingers gently caressed her picturesque face, flowed past the tip of her nose, and then slowly caressed her cheeks. His fingertips brushed those fine and uneven new wounds, and his unfathomable black eyes were full of heartache. His hands supported himself on the bed, and his body slowly leaned forward. His thin lips were close to Yi Qian's, and he kissed her soft lips. He closed his eyes and stuck close to her for a long time without leaving. Little fox, in the past 5 months, how much bitterness and suffering did you suffer? From going to the province to coming back. You fought under cover across borders. In the bed, the young and elegant lieutenant colonel was full of tenderness as he accompanied the injured girl. No one came to disturb them, and no one moved. In this world, there were only the two of them. One peacefully slept, and the other peacefully accompanied. This was eternal. In the car, political commissar Yu, who was slightly tired, pressed on his throbbing temples and spoke slowly to the department head who was in the same car. Little Yi is seriously injured. It's obvious that he didn't get injured during training. It's normal. A good student went out on a business trip for nearly 5 months and came back all injured. I'm afraid it was not convenient for the military to tell our school in detail. Xiao Yi is very outstanding. The military chose her early. Several military commanders who have seen Xiao Yi hoped that Xiao Yi could go after graduation. Our school didn't need to show up, and the military blocked them one by one. Now that I see Xiao Yi covered in injuries, old Yu, I suspect that Xiao Yi has realized her wish ahead of time. The director's sigh made political commissar Yu frown. You mean, they have already entered? What else? How do you explain your injuries? Political commissar Yu, who was no longer massaging his temples, furrowed his eyebrows and muttered to himself for a while. Then, he nodded. Your suspicions are correct. I'm afraid that he has already entered. Good seedlings will shine wherever they go. Now that their dreams have been realized, they will be like fish in water. The director smiled bitterly and shook his head. A good seedling will shine wherever she goes, but the path she chose is too dangerous. It's really worrying. Political commissar, you said, wherever the sword points, the soldiers will follow. We respect her choice. The path of the military has always been difficult, and Xiao Yi herself is already very outstanding. Now that she has taken the most difficult path, the outstanding qualities of the current generation of soldiers shine brightly on her. I support her and hope that she will have greater achievements in the future and use her abilities to serve the motherland. Only then will she live up to her military uniform. Political Commissar Yu, who was born in the field army, supported Yi Qian's choice. He believed that soldiers had to be well trained in order to truly shine. If they wanted to live an easy life, the army would not welcome them. After a short pause, Political Commissar Yu seemed to have discovered something. His face suddenly became very serious. This is not right. Chapter 4782. Political Commissar Yu's expression was so serious that it shocked the director. The director straightened his back and his expression also became serious. What's wrong? There's something wrong with their relationship. Political Commissar Yu said seriously. There's a problem, something fishy. It was a false alarm. He thought there was something wrong with Xiao Ye's injury and hid them with the doctor. The director took a deep breath and smiled. What's wrong? It's quite appropriate for a senior to take care of a junior. He only found out now? Too late, too late. That brat A Yuan had already cheated Xiao Yi. If he didn't know A Yuan's temperament as the director, he would definitely jump out and tell Xiao Yi to stay away from this person. A senior to take care of a junior, ha ha, it's just right. Political Commissar Yu, who finally reacted, smelled something unusual. He narrowed his eyes slightly. What a cunning old man. Tell me, what are you hiding? There's something wrong with their relationship, and you still say there's something wrong. The director laughed. Political Commissar, we've already graduated. It's too late for you to say there's something wrong. I'm not hiding anything. Just like you, I can see that there's something wrong. As for what's wrong, it's the young people's business. Let's not care about it. It's fine now. Don't you think so? Political Commissar Yu snorted. You still say you're not hiding anything. If we hadn't already graduated, I would definitely. Definitely what? Everyone saw Xiao Ye's performance in the military academy during her 4 years. Even if there's something wrong, it doesn't affect her. On the contrary, she's very outstanding. She's so outstanding that she can go out for work before graduation and come back with injuries. What can you do? You'll definitely praise her. The director absolutely loved Yi Qian, and Xia Jinyuan was his favorite student. He knew what kind of person he was. Although he just found out, he didn't want to break them up. Old man, do you think I don't know your selfishness? That Lieutenant Colonel Xia Jinyuan used to be your favorite student. He and Yi Qian became a couple, and I suspect that you're the one who made them. Political Commissar, they like each other. Why do I need to step in? You've done too much political and ideological work. You're too paranoid. You can't do that. We can't have internal conflict. We have to trust in each other. Like hell I'll believe you. Outside the car window, the sky gradually turned bright. Political Commissar Yu looked back at the hospital behind the car. After a long time, he shook his head and laughed. What must have happened to him? Yes, he would definitely praise Yi Qian. She also has good taste, but, sigh, she found a boyfriend too early. He still wanted to introduce her to someone after graduation. In the end, someone had struck first and gained the upper hand. Fortunately, the person he fancied wasn't bad, and was also from the same sect. So be it, why should he be the bad guy? With Yi Qian's previous performance as a foundation, political commissar Yu magnanimously let the two of them off the hook. He was also very concerned about Yi Qian's future arrangements. He said to the department head, "I heard that little Ye's class hasn't taken their graduation photos yet. This is so that we won't be short of anyone when little Yi comes back." That's right. Their class has always been united, and their camaraderie is also deep. After the morning exercise, go to their class and remind them not to rush over one by one when they see Xiao Yi returning to school. Don't risk their lives. If the doctor hadn't nodded and said to take care of them carefully and not make any big movements, and that they could still attend the graduation ceremony, he definitely wouldn't have agreed. At the mention of Yi Qian's class, the department head's smile deepened. "Okay, I'll inform them. Let them know early that little Yi is coming back to school today, and let the students who have been waiting for a few months be happy." Chapter 4783. When they talked about Yi Qian and the commanding students, political commissar Yu, who was tired after staying up all night, became interested. "Why are you still worried?" Political commissar Yu didn't walk around the school often. Other than going on business trips, he also had to go to the army sometimes. Therefore, he didn't know as much about the movements of the students as the dean, who spent most of his time in the school. Among colleagues, even after they got familiar with the work, they would still chat about their daily lives and wouldn't seem distant. The dean rubbed his head and looked helpless, but he was actually very happy. "I was questioned by the students in their class until I had a few strands of white hair. Especially that student called Su-Wen. I saw her a few times and quickly avoided her." Political commissar Yu was happy and even slapped his thigh. Soldiers, even political commissar, were heroic. This is a good thing. It means that Xiao Yi is very popular in the class. Not just because she is popular, but also because of the cohesion of the class. None of the teachers who taught her were dissatisfied. They all kept praising her. "Sigh, such a good seedling can't stay in the school. What a loss. I won't force her. Now she has made a good choice." "You don't sigh. I haven't chased you yet, but you didn't stop the students from dating. You even looked happy." "Ha ha ha, old you. Don't you think they are a good match? A talented man and a beautiful woman. A match made in heaven." Political commissar Yu also laughed. What he said was true. They were indeed a good match. It was pleasing to the eye. It even gave people a feeling of, it should be like this. Therefore, he didn't feel strange at all at that time. There were too many bachelors in the military school. They had to worry about finding a girlfriend after graduation. With Xiao Ye's appearance, character, and knowledge, she had attracted the hearts of many male students. Now, they didn't even have the chance to get close to her. Instead, she was kidnapped by a senior who was several years older than them. TSK, those male students who secretly wanted to pursue Yi Qian after graduation, cried to their heart's content. Graduation itself was sad. It was a good opportunity to cry. Recognizing reality in advance was good for physical and mental development. He was indeed a political commissar. Even when he was heartbroken, he could be promoted to political ideology director. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the military school horn sounded, and a new day of training began for all students. The fourth-year students also had their last training in the school. The horn sounded, and all the fourth-year students gathered at the fastest speed. To the front and back. At ease, stand at attention. The sun had yet to rise, but the entire training ground of the National University of Science and Technology was already in full swing. The students in Yi Qian's class started to warm up. They started by running 3 kilometers around the field. The temperature in the morning was just right, and there was a slight breeze blowing. Su-Wen and He Jing ran at an even speed, and when they passed by a few male students who slowed down, they stopped them. The two of them slowed down and quietly listened to the male student's question. The question made the two of them even more depressed. The lively Su-won was extremely abnormal today. She pursed her lips and did not answer. Hee-jing lowered her eyes and answered the male students in a low voice. We haven't received any news either. We haven't arrived yet. I'm afraid we won't be participating. Then the only person missing from our graduation photo is Yi Chien. The male students' moods instantly dropped. They had all been waiting for Yi Chien to return. They had even postponed the graduation photos they should have taken long ago. They just didn't want Yi Chien to be missing from the only photo of all their comrades. They had been waiting and hoping. However, as the graduation ceremony was monitored, there was still no news of Yi Chien, who had left the campus. The sense of disappointment grew. At today's graduation ceremony, if Yi Chien still didn't show up, she would be the only one missing from the class photo. Chapter 4784. Besides looking forward to Yi Chien's return, some of the male students had other thoughts. Their dormitory mates would know more or less. Seeing several male students running with Hee-jing and Su-won, Wei Jiaming ran to Lu Yang and whispered, "Go and listen to what Hee-jing is saying. We've graduated. If you don't tell her now, you won't have a chance to tell her in the future. There are more bachelors in the army than in our school. Do you plan to keep it a secret for the rest of your life?" Lu Yang, a male student who had been saved by Yi Chien from several gangsters, fell in love with him in a short time. He had been secretly in love with him for 4 years. In addition to him, several other male students had other thoughts. In the past, they had thought that Song Jiqiu also liked Yi Jian. Once, Wei Jiaming, Gu Jinglin, and the others, who were in the know, had even persuaded Lu Yang to marry Song Jiqiu. They all believed that Lu Yang was hopeless and Yi Jian would definitely choose Song Jiqiu. What surprised the male students was that Song Jiqiu liked Su-won. The news was really exciting. The male students who had failed to fall in love with Song Jiqiu became active again. Unexpectedly, they had other thoughts. However, the girl hadn't come to school for a whole semester and even missed the exam. Lu Yang was gentle and had a good family background. Wei Jiaming asked Lu Yang to listen to the news quickly so that he could make the first move. Lu Yang, who had been timid before, was bold now. After hearing what Wei Jiaming said, he said, "Thank you, brother. There's no news from the department. Wenzi and I have asked the director several times, but the answer is the same. Let's wait a little longer," Hee-jing said while running. She looked a little sad. Her comrade, who should have been with her, had left for several months without any news. How could she not be worried? Lu Yang didn't hear the first part. He only heard, "Wait a little longer." Then he knew that there was still no news from Yi Chien. His eyes were dim and his shoulders slumped a little. "Don't be discouraged. There's no news now. You can pursue him when there is news. You don't have news and neither do others. Since everyone is the same, shouldn't you be happy? It's fair if everyone is the same." Wei Jiaming, who wanted to develop into a civil servant, was very eloquent. With just a few words, he managed to persuade Lu Yang to come back. The two of them talked as they ran, and they finished the last morning run of their lives as students. When the other male students saw this, they didn't ask any more questions. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to get any answers. Seeing that his girlfriend, Su-won, was in low spirits, Song Jiqiu could only sigh inwardly. He was also looking forward to Yi Chien's return. He had been looking forward to it since the start of school until graduation, but to no avail. He didn't know when she would come back. When she came back, except for the 14 comrades who had passed the postgraduate entrance exam, the other comrades would have gone their separate ways. She would be very sad at that time. "Don't cry. We will definitely meet again in the future. Didn't you say that her family is also in Beijing? You're also from Beijing. Maybe you're on vacation together. Cheer up, don't cry." Su-won, who was crying, rubbed her eyes. She was so disappointed that she didn't even know how to smile. Little Jane Eyre didn't answer. She wasn't in the mood to be happy. She left for several months without any news. We didn't even have a chance to see her in school, let alone after graduation. Speaking of this, Song Jichio's mood became even worse. She didn't even have a chance to see her in school, let alone after graduation. After the morning exercise, the drill master didn't immediately ask the students of the command class where Yi Qian was to leave. According to past experiences, it was definitely not a good thing if they couldn't leave after the training. Chapter 4785. Although Su Wen, He Jing, and the other students were in low spirits, they still held their heads high and kept in mind that they were soldiers who could not bend at any time. Being scolded by the instructor on the last day of training was also a memento of their graduation. They lined up neatly. The students in the front row suddenly saw the dean walking towards their class, especially the smiling dean. Su Wen, who was at the front, seemed to have thought of something and her eyes lit up. If not for the fact that discipline did not allow her to do so, she would have touched He Jing's arm and voiced her guess. She was not the only one whose eyes lit up. Seeing the smiling dean, the eyes of all the students in the class lit up as well. Everyone's eyes lit up like lanterns. You all know what I want to say just by looking? The smiling dean stood in front of the class, his words igniting the enthusiasm of all the students in the class. What low spirits! What melancholy! Get lost! Only happiness! 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 Ha ha ha! Yi Qian is back! He's back for the graduation ceremony! Ha! Happiness! The entire class was in an uproar. Their happiness made the other fourth-year students look up. The military academy had strict discipline. Even if they wanted to ask what had happened, they could not just run over. They could only ask when they saw the dean. Thus, the news that the command-type student Yi Qian would be back for the graduation ceremony after missing an entire semester spread like wildfire after breakfast. Yi Qian was a popular figure in the academy. Missing a week, 2 weeks, or even a month was not a big deal. He was in his 4th year and had more opportunities to go out on official business, so it was normal. However, missing an entire semester, even the students who did not care about Yi Qian would hear about Yi Qian from the other students in the class who were paying attention to Yi Qian. The official news was that Yi Qian's company internship had been brought forward and that he would be there for the entire semester. Who would believe that? The good thing about the military academy was that it was very difficult for rumors to spread. Once the source was found, it would be recorded in the records for light cases, or even directly expelled from the academy. Thus, even if Yi Qian missed an entire semester, there were no bad rumors. Now that Yi Qian was back, the students who wanted to take photos with Yi Qian were happy. The graduation ceremony started at 9 a.m. It was 7 a.m. now, which meant that they would see Yi Qian in an hour. Is Yi Qian the graduation representative? Yes, there has always been. We left a spot for her. She's definitely the most outstanding student of our batch. Ha, are you jealous? Go away, who would be jealous of something that everyone can see? If she wasn't there, I would definitely be jealous. It's a pity that she didn't take the postgraduate entrance exam. She wanted to take the postgraduate entrance exam before studying for her doctorate. After that, she would have a higher military rank and more opportunities. Even if she doesn't study for her doctorate, she won't need to go through the internship period and will be given a military rank directly. Military academy cadets were not awarded their military ranks on the day they graduated. Instead, there was an internship period after they were assigned to the company. They would first go to the company with a bar and epaulets, and would only be awarded their military ranks after 3 months or half a year. When outstanding students graduated, even if they were awarded the rank of lieutenant, they would still have an internship period. Yi Jian had been an outstanding student in every semester during his 4 years in the military academy. During his time in school, he had also been awarded a third-class merit, which could be used as a reference for his graduation military rank. At 7 a.m., the military leaders arrived at the academy. They first introduced the outstanding students, with Yi Qian as the focus. Major General Yang knew Yi Qian better than the school leaders. Yi Qian's medals were in his briefcase, 2 third-class and 2 second-class. This meant that Yi Qian had received 3 third-class and 2 second-class awards as a student. This was something that even Xia Jinyuan had not achieved when he was a student. Chapter 4786. Yi Qian's performance as a student was outstanding, and he made several military exploits. After discussion, the military has decided to make an exception and confer Yi Qian the rank of captain on the day of the graduation ceremony. In the conference room, Major General Yang, who represented the military to attend the graduation ceremony, explained his intentions. This was a decision made at the last-minute meeting held by the military last night. Commander-in-Chief Xia personally signed the document, and Major General Yang took a 4 a.m. flight to Xiang City. Major General Yang still believed that conferring the rank of major to Yi Qian was the right thing to do. Being a captain was an injustice to Yi Qian. Commander-in-Chief Xia did not agree. Conferring a military rank on the day of the graduation ceremony was already an exception. If he were to confer the rank of major, it would be a reward for Yi Qian, but it would be a provocation to the other students, and it would have a bad influence. Thus, the military rank would not change, but Yi Qian's Medal of Merit that had not been conferred must be conferred this time. He placed the red boxes containing the Medal of Merit one by one on the conference table, and then opened them one by one, which shocked the school leaders who received him. 2 third-class merits. 2 second-class merits. Outstanding student Yi Qian, what kind of missions did you carry out during your 4 years in the military academy? There was no need to mention the third-class merit. Yi Qian actually had a second-class merit. How difficult was it to get a second-class merit? To give a simple example, if you carried out a mission or protected the safety of people's property, and your body was stabbed several times and you almost died, you might get a second-class merit. Or if you needed to bring glory to the country, you might get a second-class merit if you crushed the opponent of another country. In other words, Yi Qian's life was hanging by a thread at least twice, and he narrowly escaped death. The school leaders' foreheads were slightly sweaty. As a leader, they actually did not know what student Yi Qian did. It was simply a dereliction of duty. Major General Yang's actions shocked the school leaders, and Yi Qian, who had a good sleep for a few hours, returned to school refreshed. During the ward rounds, the doctor repeatedly reminded them that he would personally supervise and send Yi Qian to the car. Before the car drove off, he reminded Xia Jinyuan of what to pay attention to before waving his hand to let them go. Yi Qian was a little agitated. Xia Jinyuan, who had been serving her the whole time, was afraid that she would strain her wound if she got too agitated, so he pulled Yi Qian into his arms and said, "Don't be agitated, don't be agitated. I can understand how you feel, but the situation doesn't allow you to be too agitated. If the wound tightens, I have no doubt that the doctor will threaten me with a scalpel. There's also the department head. I'm afraid he'll fight me to the death. At least take care of your boyfriend's safety. Don't get agitated." He spoke in a low voice so that the taxi driver could not hear him. Yi Qian, who was in his arms, smiled so brightly that his eyes sparkled like stars. Don't worry. For your safety, I will definitely take good care of myself." It wasn't easy for her to come back to the country and attend the graduation ceremony. She didn't want to be ordered to lie back in bed and be reprimanded. After getting injured, she became as obedient as before. Xia Jinyuan, who was full of tenderness, avoided the gunshot wound on her shoulder with his arms and hugged her a little tighter. He lowered his head and kissed her ear. Don't say too much. Huh? Yi Qian was puzzled. She looked up at him with a face full of question marks. Yi Qian, who had been undercover for nearly 5 months, was very thin. Her face was originally the size of a palm, but it was very delicate and beautiful. Her eyes were bright and elegant. Now that she was so thin that even her bones were weak, her eyes looked even bigger, like those of a fawn. Looking at her eyes could melt one's heart into a puddle of water. The small wounds on her face did not affect her beauty. Instead, they made her look more delicate and delicate. She also had a pair of eyes that could melt one's heart into a puddle of water. Xia Jinyuan's breath hitched and his Adam's apple bobbed a few times. Chapter 4787. Her palm-sized face used to have a bit of baby fat, but now that she had slimmed down, the baby fat was gone. Her delicate facial features had become extremely delicate, and her every frown and smile had the bright charm of a girl. Although her face was pale due to excessive blood loss, this paleness made her look even more beautiful than a flower. Even without makeup, she was already beautiful enough to topple cities. Xia Jinyuan was a normal man. Although he didn't care about appearances, who didn't like beautiful things. His heart rippled when he saw Yi Qian's smile. But his heart ached when he saw the wounds on her face. Soldiers with experience fighting in the jungle could tell at a glance how she had been injured. His little fox had done a very amazing thing. Without his help, without his accompaniment, she was already able to go deep into battle by herself. The little fox that he had grown up with had become a qualified special forces soldier. She had completely walked to his side, and he only needed to lift his eyes to see her from a distance. Suppressing the pain in his heart, Xia Jinyuan lowered his eyes and looked at Yi Qian with his dark eyes. His thin lips curved slightly. There are only 2 words. Think about it carefully. Lieutenant Colonel Xia tried to hold himself back, but he couldn't. After he finished speaking, he followed his heart and lowered his head to kiss Yi Qian on the lip. It felt wonderful. As expected, one couldn't go against one's heart. One had to follow one's heart. Yi Qian did not expect that he would suddenly kiss her in the car. Her pale face instantly blushed. She was so beautiful that even the blooming flowers paled in comparison. Just think about it. Why are you being so touchy? I wanted to be touchy, but I didn't have the chance. Xia Jinyuan was very tactful. But I can't take advantage of someone when they're down. I'm worse than a beast. Sigh, the self-control he was so proud of was no different from tofu dregs in front of her. A light touch and everything would collapse. After a few months of undercover work, Yi Qian realized that his shamelessness had deteriorated. He was momentarily stumped and did not know what to say. In the car, Xia Jinyuan did not dare to be too presumptuous. In addition, Yi Qian was injured, so Xia Jinyuan naturally knew when to stop. When he saw his girlfriend glaring at him, he immediately became obedient. Okay. I won't say anything. Think carefully about which 2 words are missing. I forgot what I said before. You said that you would take good care of yourself. That's it. Yi Qian, whose face was still red, blinked, then blinked again. Under his gentle and smiling gaze, Yi Qian quickly realized what he had missed out. What do you mean by saying less? You were the one who wanted me to say it, and you even took the opportunity to take advantage of me. Even so, Yi Qian still did as he wished. Hearing the 2 words he wanted to hear the most, Xia Jinyuan, who was approaching slowly with a smile on his handsome face, lowered his head again and succeeded in stealing another kiss. Good boy. I'll give you a reward. Yi Qian raised his left hand and secretly pinched Xia Jinyuan's waist. In return, Xia Jinyuan laughed heartily. Fortunately, the taxi driver had seen much of the world and remained calm. He didn't even turn his head as he drove his car steadily. For you, I will take good care of myself. Without saying for you, the narrow-minded Lieutenant Colonel Xia was finally satisfied. Soon, they arrived at the University of Science and Technology of China. The scenery along the way became more and more familiar. Bits and pieces of memories from the 4 years in the military academy flooded into his mind. 4 years ago, he had accompanied her to the school gate when he was not her lover. 4 years later, he had accompanied her to the school gate when he was already her lover. Yi Jian looked at the familiar school gate and looked up at Xia Jinyuan with a bright smile. Chapter 4788. Xia Jinyuan seemed to understand what she was thinking. He stroked her hair, and the tenderness in his eyes enveloped Yi Qian like a net. He said, "I'll always be with you. I'll always be with you. I'll never leave you." Today's weather was good. The sky was blue and cloudless. The moment Yi Qian got out of the car, she felt as if she was on solid ground. The soldier standing guard at the entrance recognized Yi Qian and was shocked to see her in a wheelchair. After checking her ID, he asked with concern, "Are you okay?" He was afraid that asking too many questions would make Yi Qian uncomfortable, so he expressed his concern with the simplest sentence. "Thank you. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while." Yi Qian's reply made the soldier's stern face relax. That's good. Welcome back to school, Yi Qian." Then, with a solemn expression, he saluted Yi Qian, who was sitting in a wheelchair. She was being pushed by a lieutenant colonel. There must be a reason for her injury. Yi Qian was stunned at first, but then she smiled and saluted back. Upon entering the familiar campus, Yi Qian saw the figures of the students coming and going. They were all freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. The seniors had already lined up and were heading to the auditorium. Many freshmen, sophomores, and juniors were no strangers to the famous person in school, Yi Qian. But all the juniors who passed by Yi Qian stopped and watched their senior Yi Qian leave. They did not disturb her. It was not that they did not care. The concern in their eyes had long overshadowed the shock. They did not discuss it too much. It was as if they all knew why their senior was injured. Actually, they did not know. However, their senior sister was being pushed by a young lieutenant colonel in a wheelchair. It was obvious that their senior sister was seriously injured. Their senior, Yi Qian, had always been at a height that they could never reach. They could only look up to her with admiration. Under countless gazes, Yi Qian quietly requested to stand up and leave, but was rejected by her boyfriend, Lieutenant Colonel Xia. The reason for her rejection was very simple. As the representative of the outstanding students, she went up to the stage to give a speech. If she walked over slowly, it might delay the time and cause all the fourth-year students to wait, which wouldn't be good for her reputation. Yi Qian did not mention it a second time. It was a very strong reason to reject him. However, Yi Qian felt very uncomfortable being stared at by his junior brothers and sisters from time to time, so he asked Xia Jinyuan to take another path to the auditorium. Xia Jinyuan knew every path in the University of Science and Technology, so he didn't need Yi Qian to guide him. He took a relatively remote path. This was also the path that Yi Qian walked the most. Xia Jinyuan, who was pushing the wheelchair, even slowed down a lot because he knew that Yi Qian walked the most on this path. The sense of familiarity made Yi Qian's eyes dry up. She focused on her alma mater, which had taught her everything, and her vision gradually blurred. Soon, she would leave her alma mater. Soon, she and her comrades would go their separate ways. She didn't know when they would meet again. Soon, she would change into a student's epaulet. Soon, she would completely separate herself from her life as a student. She thought it would be very, very slow, but today she realized that 4 years really passed very quickly. It was time to say goodbye, take care, and contact each other more. If you have time in the future, come back often to visit our shared alma mater. We'll come back together. Xia Jinyuan, who had also experienced graduation, could understand his girlfriend's feelings. Parting was sad, but no one could be truly happy at the moment of parting. Chapter 4789. Yi Qian nodded gently. Her gaze lingered on the campus as if she wanted to carve every scenery, even a small stone, into her heart. She could hear the voices of her junior brothers and sisters training. Their voices were loud and full of energy. There were once young and inexperienced people who had been tempered on this campus. When she looked back, it was already a memory. 4 years later, each and every one of them had returned to their homeland. She used to stand on the campus and watch her senior brothers and sisters leave. Now it was finally her turn. There was once when I came out of the lab and left my ID in the lab. I saw the pickets coming from afar and realized that I had forgotten to bring my ID. I immediately hugged this tree and jumped up like a monkey to escape. At that time, there were some sophomores who stood under the tree in a daze for a long time. When the pickets were over, I came down from the tree and saw my senior brothers trying to hold back their laughter. For a long time, I avoided them. It was very embarrassing. This is the place where I, Su-Wen, and He-Jing came the most. After eating, we would take a walk and discuss our projects. I rarely come here in the summer because there are too few trees. In the winter, I like it because I can bask in the sun. From the campus to the central axis of the auditorium, Yi Qian would tell Xia Jinyuan about her 4 years of beautiful memories every time they passed by. Most of the time, Xia Jinyuan listened with a smile. Occasionally, he would mention some interesting things that had happened to him here. His interesting stories were truly interesting. When he saw that his girlfriend was sad, he deliberately picked up some interesting and embarrassing stories. Yi Qian laughed until she could not stop. If he continued, she would laugh until her wound opened up. Quickly stop talking. Only then did Xia Jinyuan stop. He squatted down and carefully checked Yi Qian's wound to see if it had opened up again. His nervous look made Yi Qian feel sweet and happy. She was exceptionally satisfied. I have an idea. How can a casual smile open up a wound? Even a porcelain doll is not so fragile. I have to recover quickly and report to the team as soon as possible. Thinking about how she would join the Snowfield Brigade after graduation, the sadness of the graduation season faded a lot. Right now, you are no different from a porcelain doll in my eyes. After confirming that there was no problem with the wound, Xia Jinyuan breathed a sigh of relief. His heart, which had tightened because of her words, also slowly relaxed. If you want to report to the team as soon as possible, you must always be careful. Her seemingly indifferent tone made Yi Qian feel reluctant. Although her boyfriend was very happy that she was nervous, she also knew that her injury had frightened him. Yi Jian turned her head, raised her eyebrows and smiled. Captain Xia, I'll definitely work very hard to not let myself get hurt in the future. I'll work very, very hard to not let my man worry. I'll work very, very hard to take care of myself. For Captain Xia who loves me, I'll work very, very hard to take care of myself. He shook his head as he spoke. When he saw Xia Jinyuan, he was both happy and in love with her. The Major General also told him to observe her carefully to see if she had any psychological trauma. After all, it was her first time fighting alone, and she was going to a dangerous place. If there were any problems, he could immediately talk to her. Now, it seemed that the Major General was overthinking things. He did not see any psychological trauma, but there was a 15-year-old girl. That's right. Remember what you said just now. When I return to the base, I have to copy down what you said and sign it together. If you don't do it, you will be punished. Good idea. Yi Qian nodded in agreement. Okay, sign and sign. You too. Of course. Captain Xia blinked and nodded with a smile. Obviously, there was an ulterior motive behind that smile. Unfortunately, Yi Qian did not see it. Chapter 4790. Although her skills were improving day by day, Lieutenant Colonel Xia was still slightly better than her. As the two of them talked back and forth affectionately, The auditorium where the graduation ceremony was held could be seen in front of them. Below the auditorium, all the graduating seniors were lined up neatly and walked into the auditorium in group. Although there were many stone steps, the army green figures walking in a straight line formed the most beautiful scenery. Yi Qian looked at her hospital gown and couldn't help but feel out of place. She had to hurry up and put on the student uniform. "Do you need to go to the bathroom?" She was on an 4 drip from 4 in the morning until 6 in the morning. She refused to get out of bed and used a convenient urine bag. With 5 bottles of 4 drips flowing into her blood vessels, her bladder would be quite full. In the hospital, there were nurses to help her go to the bathroom. When she arrived at school, Xia Jinyuan was worried about asking the female students for help, so he planned to escort her himself. Yi Qian, who wanted to put on her uniform as soon as possible, choked when she heard this. "Wait, I'll ask Su Wen and He Jing to help. You don't have to worry. I'm worried about letting them take care of you." Xia Jinyuan could tell what she was thinking at a glance. The little girl was shy again. "Based on our relationship, it's normal for a boyfriend to help his injured girlfriend go to the bathroom. There's no one in the bathroom. I'll accompany you." Without giving Yi Qian a chance to refuse, he pushed the wheelchair over. 5 minutes later, Yi Qian sat back in the wheelchair with a flushed face. Fortunately, there was no one around. If other students saw her, she would definitely find a hole to hide in. Even Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who had previously been open and aboveboard and thought that there was nothing wrong with it and that he wouldn't be affected, blushed slightly. Saying and doing were indeed 2 different things. He thought it was easy, but in fact, when he really had to serve her, his hands were trembling. It was simply too exciting. "First time, second time, it'll be better next time." The blushing Lieutenant Colonel Xia comforted her. Yi Qian was so embarrassed that she wanted to cover her face. She squeezed out a voice as soft as a mosquito's. "Next time, I'll do it myself. I won't ask you for help." Xia Jinyuan, who was behind her back, smiled. That was not up to her. There was only 1 class left, and Xia Jinyuan pushed Yi Qian into the auditorium through the back entrance. Backstage, Su Wen and He Jing were waiting anxiously. From time to time, they would walk to the door to see if Yi Qian had arrived. The department head told the 2 of them to remember to bring Yi Qian's student uniform with them so that Yi Qian could save time. When they arrived at the auditorium's changing hall, the 2 of them rushed to the changing hall backstage early, but they still didn't see Yi Qian's figure. "It's only 5 minutes to 8. Why isn't little Jane Eyre here yet? Don't tell me you have something to do midway and won't be attending the graduation ceremony?" Su Wen, whose heart was in a mess, couldn't help but run to the door to take a look. She still didn't see the familiar figure and became a little anxious. He Jing said, "No, the department head said that little Jane Eyre would be here." But Su Wen, who was looking again, suddenly widened her eyes. She was overjoyed. Little Jane Eyre! With a whoosh, she turned into a gust of wind and rushed out of the changing hall. He Jing followed closely behind. The 2 of them braked almost at the same time. Their little Jane Eyre was in a wheelchair. No wonder the department head told them to be mentally prepared and not to be rash when they saw Yi Qian. They shouldn't pounce on Yi Qian out of excitement. It turned out their little Jane Eyre was injured. Chapter 4791. Yi Qian's shoulders, back and calves are all injured. Please be gentle when you help her change her clothes. Bending, stretching, and pulling her arms are not allowed as it will open her wound. Before Yi Qian entered the changing room to change her clothes, Xia Jinyuan carefully instructed Su Wen and He Jing. His serious expression made their hearts skip a beat and their eyes redden. When they helped Yi Qian take off her hospital gown, they saw that her limbs, waist, chest, and shoulders were all wrapped in white bandages. The tears that they tried so hard to hold back suddenly flowed out. How did you get hurt like this?" Su Wen's trembling fingers were extremely light, like a feather caressing the bandages on Yi Qian's shoulders. "Does it hurt a lot? Does it hurt a lot?" Her voice was choked with sobs and her tears flowed freely. Yi Qian smiled and shook her head. "It's okay. I didn't know it was painful then, and it doesn't hurt now. Don't cry. If you continue crying, your eyes will swell to the size of peach pits." He Jing quietly wiped her tears and said softly, "Wenzi, don't waste time. Help little Jane Eyre put on her shirt. The air conditioner is too strong. Don't blow little Jane Eyre." With such serious injuries and injuries all over her body, how could it not hurt? But little Jane Eyre had always been able to endure. No matter how painful it was, she would endure it and say that it didn't hurt. She wouldn't let her comrades worry. Okay, Su Wen retracted her hand and hurriedly helped Yi Qian put on his clothes without even wiping her tears. The sound of pacing came from outside the door. Su Wen sniffled and livened up the atmosphere. "Little Jane Eyre, your boyfriend, who is so handsome that he makes us feel inferior, is getting anxious. Just now when you said that we would help you change your clothes, we nodded. Then his gaze shot over like a knife. I almost surrendered and let him do it. I stole his job. Is he very angry now? What a narrow-minded guy." "What do you mean by narrow-minded?" "He's just worried that we'll be clumsy and hurt Jane Eyre." He Jing secretly glared at Su Wen. Did she know how to talk? Those who didn't know would think that Jane Eyre's boyfriend was really petty. Su Wen stuck out her tongue and He Jing rolled her eyes. Yi Qian pursed his lips and said somewhat embarrassedly, "Don't take it to heart. He doesn't even trust the nurses. He even wants to do the for himself. Fortunately, I have Song Jiqia with me. Otherwise, I would be so upset after hearing what you said. Little sister, you sit at the bow of the boat. Big brother, I will walk on the shore, swinging on the rope. Be more reserved. There's a chief outside." He Jing, whose mouth was twitching, reminded her softly. "So what if he's the chief? We're Jane Eyre's schoolmates. Shouldn't the chief be coaxing us? Song Jiqio is so honest in front of you. She's afraid that I'll be abducted by you one day." Su Wen raised her eyebrows. She didn't feel ashamed at all. Xia Jinyuan, who was outside, was speechless. He raised his hand and rubbed his forehead. He regretted that he didn't insist on changing Yi Qian's clothes. Why did he feel that this female student wasn't very reliable? Fortunately, the other female student looked more mature. Otherwise, he wouldn't have compromised and agreed to it. Yi Qian didn't like to talk about others behind their back. He wouldn't even mention it in front of Xia Jinyuan. Even if he did mention it, he would only mention the interesting things that happened when they were together. As a result, Xia Jinyuan didn't know much about Su Wen's and He Jing's characters. He didn't need to know too much. He could tell a thing or two with just a few words. Su Wen was free and easy and had a sense of propriety. He Jing was mature and tolerant. Yi Qian was gentle and cold. The three completely different characters were in the same room. They tolerated and complimented each other. Naturally, they had a good relationship. Chapter 4792. In the changing room, Su Wen and He Jing were chatting and laughing, but their eyes were wet. They carefully helped Yi Qian change his clothes. Even when they put on his socks, Yi Qian's protests were completely ineffective. In the auditorium, the graduation ceremony had already begun. Yi Qian, who had changed into his military uniform, no longer looked sickly. Even though he was sitting in a wheelchair, his originally reserved aura could no longer be concealed, nor could it hide his solemn military aura. Behind him, Su Wen and He Jing, who were also wearing their military uniforms, also looked like soldiers. However, they still lacked something compared to Yi Qian. Even though Yi Qian was in a wheelchair, others would still notice Yi Qian at first glance. Xia Jinyuan, who was waiting at the door, walked over. He bent down and helped Yi Qian adjust his military cap. "Not bad. You look 100 times more energetic. Of course. The publicity committee has been looking for Yi Qian to take pictures of the school for publicity purposes, but little Jane Eyre has always rejected them. No one is more suitable than our little Jane Eyre to wear a military uniform. She has temperament, looks, military poise, and great abilities. This lieutenant colonel in front of me has really hit the jackpot. He was obviously praising his girlfriend, but Xia Jinyuan couldn't feel happy. What, our little Jane Eyre? Ha, she should be his little fox. After thanking the two of them, Xia Jinyuan pushed the wheelchair again. Occasionally, he leaned over to Yi Qian's ear and whispered, "You're mine, not theirs." Yi Qian smiled helplessly and glanced at him. "Captain Xia, aren't you a little too petty?" I was generous enough just now. I even gave up the opportunity to serve you. Why do you still think I'm petty?" Xia Jinyuan felt wronged for not changing his girlfriend's clothes himself. Su Wen, who was in her military uniform, secretly rolled her eyes. "This lieutenant colonel, huh? Don't think I don't know that he said those words on purpose. Narrow-minded. I've never seen such a petty lieutenant colonel." He Jing lowered her head and smiled. It was pretty good. It was obvious that the lieutenant colonel cared a lot about little Jane Eyre. From the way he looked at little Jane Eyre, it wasn't hard to tell that as long as little Jane Eyre was around, there was no one else in his eyes. "Let's go back to class first. See you later." He Jing put on her military cap and turned around to talk to Yi Qian. "Good luck. The whole class is waiting for you to speak." "Wrong, it's all the senior students, especially the male students who come to our class every 2 to 3 days to ask if little Jane Eyre has returned to school." "Good luck, little Jane Eyre," Su Wen said with a smile while using the corner of her eye to observe the expression of the narrow-minded lieutenant colonel. Failure. He could only see the other party's flawless, elegant smile. Other than that, there was no other expression. "Humph. Don't talk about it any more." Su Wen pulled He Jing away. After the two of them left, Xia Jinyuan said helplessly, "It's a good thing that you're graduating soon. Otherwise, I would be worried that she would lead you astray." Yi Qian smiled and said, "Su Wen is very smart. Don't be fooled by her temperament. She never speaks carelessly. She had a good impression of you before, and even said that it was a good deal for me to find such a handsome boyfriend." Xia Jinyuan raised his eyebrows. "What about you? Do you agree or disagree?" "Of course. I agree," she deliberately dragged out her answer. Her mischievous look made the smile on Xia Jinyuan's handsome face last for a long time. After coming out of the changing room, Xia Jinyuan pushed his wheelchair to a corner backstage where he could watch the entire graduation ceremony. As soon as the two of them appeared, an instructor immediately came over to greet them. This was Yi Qian's instructor, equivalent to the class director. When he saw Yi Qian, the instructor first looked him up and down, then gently patted Yi Qian on the shoulder and smiled. "Good job. This is what a soldier should do. The school is proud of you." Chapter 4793. Yi Qian was not used to being praised. She was used to keeping a low profile and did not want to publicize it. After chatting with the instructor for a while, Yi Qian asked, "I don't think the class knows about my situation, right?" The instructor knew Yi Qian very well. The moment she asked, the instructor knew what she was thinking and couldn't help but laugh. "It's good to keep a low profile, but you can't always keep a low profile. We won't ask how you got injured, but you definitely won't be able to hide your injury. Also, someone from the military will come and reward you with a huge surprise." "Can I reject the surprise?" "Are you sure you can reject the military's decision?" Yi Qian was silent. "Of course not." As they spoke, the instructor secretly sized up the young lieutenant colonel, who simply introduced himself as Xia. Xia Jinyuan, who was not afraid of being sized up, openly allowed the instructor to size him up. He was not as cautious as he usually was when their relationship was not exposed. It was time for their secret relationship to bask in the sun. Was he still afraid of being found out by the instructor? Although he was not afraid, he did not deliberately mind and allowed the instructor to size him up. Yi Qian was also able to keep her cool. If the instructor did not ask, she would not say anything. When the host of the graduation ceremony announced the outstanding student representative to come on stage to give a speech, the audience burst into thunderous applause before she even appeared. Yi Qian, who did not want to go on stage in a wheelchair, slowly got up with the help of Xia Jinyuan. Then, with the help of the instructor, she slowly walked towards the stage. Sorry to trouble you. 4 years of teacher-student relationship. This is no trouble at all. The instructor smiled and carefully helped Yi Qian out from backstage. The host, who was standing in the middle of the stage, spoke in a deep voice that spread to every corner of the large auditorium. Every word was clearly heard by the 4th-year student. Next up, I believe everyone is very familiar with this outstanding student. We have heard of her bravery and brilliance countless times in the academy, but this time, I think all of us will be shocked by her appearance. Let's welcome the outstanding student representative, Yi Qian, to come on stage and give a speech. Please give her a round of applause. Although the host did not directly announce his name, the students in the audience all knew that on the last day of graduation season, Yi Qian, who had disappeared for an entire semester, had really returned to school. Thunderous applause sounded again. The dark green figures below the stage all looked at the stage, and the applause was louder and more intense than the last. The applause from the rostrum was equally loud. Major General Yang looked at the female soldier, who walked out with deep relief in his eyes. Due to special circumstances, please give Yi Qian some time. Thank you. After the host finished speaking, apart from He Jing and Su Wen, who were not surprised, all the other students had looks of surprise on their faces. When Yi Qian's figure appeared on the stage, a fierce military might, like a sharp sword that had been unsheathed, rushed towards them as she walked slowly. Immediately, the students' expressions turned serious, and they subconsciously tensed up their bodies and sat up straighter. Sorry to have made my comrades wait for so long. I am Yi Qian of the commander type. It is my honor to stand here and give a speech as a representative. The slender figure on the stage was as straight as a long spear. She was unperturbed by the thousands of gazes, sizing her up. There was not a trace of strangeness in her voice. She spoke clearly and calmly. If she had not walked out very slowly, no one would have thought that she was seriously injured. Her speech was only 3 minutes long. After calmly finishing her speech, Yi Qian slowly raised her right hand and saluted towards the rostrum and the audience. Amidst the applause, Yi Qian was about to turn around and leave the stage, but the host smiled and stopped Yi Qian. Major General Yang stood up from the rostrum. Chapter 4794. Yi Qian had already seen Major General Yang sitting on the rostrum backstage. Furthermore, the instructor backstage had told her that the military would give her an award. Now that she saw Major General Yang stand up, Yi Qian suddenly had the urge to flee the scene. The host was also very smart. He actually saw through Yi Qian's thoughts and joked, "Yi Qian, why do I feel like you can't wait to leave this stage?" The students sitting below the stage laughed at the cuteness of the most famous person in the academy. The host could see it, but the students could more or less see it as well. Although Yi Qian was the most famous person in the academy, she was very low-key. She was never arrogant because of her strength, so it was not strange that she, who had always kept a low profile, wanted to escape. Fortunately, this was a military academy with strict rules. In addition, it was a solemn graduation ceremony. All the students followed the rules and did not whisper to each other. Although there was laughter, it quickly stopped. The host said again, "Yi Qian, are you afraid that I'll ask you where your injuries came from? Is that why you're so anxious to leave my side?" Then you're wrong today. Although I do want to know where your injuries came from, I know that even if I asked, you wouldn't tell me, right? Yi Qian, who was still holding the microphone, smiled. Yes, it's just a minor injury. It's not worth mentioning. Su Wen and He Jing both silently wiped the corners of their eyes. What minor injury? It was clearly a serious injury. Major General Yang had already walked over. The host immediately smiled and changed the topic naturally. I think it's better if I hand the microphone to the chief. The rules and regulations don't allow me to continue asking. Let's welcome Major General Yang from the military to the stage. Major General Yang strode to the host amidst the orderly and rhythmic applause. The host and Yi Qian saluted at the same time to show their respect. Major General Yang took the microphone and walked to Yi Qian's side. He directly held the microphone and asked Yi Qian, "Can you hold on for another 3 minutes?" "Sir, I can keep going," Yi Qian answered firmly. Major General Yang, who had gotten the answer, turned to face all the students below the stage and said in a deep voice, "I'm sure all the students want to know why I asked Yi Qian if she could hold on for another 3 minutes. Since time is limited, I won't say much. Please look at the photo. The photo will tell all the students the reason I asked." The large screen in the middle of the stage originally showed the bright red military flag. As Major General Yang finished speaking, all the students turned their attention to the screen. Yi Qian, who also turned his head to look behind him, was stunned. Why are there photos? When was it taken? Why didn't she know anything about it? Don't be nervous. This is your moment of glory, Yi Qian. The military owes you, but we will never forget the glory that belongs to you. Major General Yang turned off the microphone and spoke in a low voice that only the two of them could hear. He tried to calm Yi Qian down. You're too low-key. The following commendations need to start with a start. Stand firm, Yi Qian, and accept the glory that belongs to you. Yi Qian, who was still in shock, calmed himself down and replied softly, I've troubled you and the military. Major General Yang said softly, You and a UN are sometimes exactly the same. The military merits that some people fight for are insignificant in your eyes. What's yours and what's mine will be given to you. It's not that I've troubled you, it's just how it should be. Yi Qian pursed his lips and smiled. He really didn't care about military merit. The true meaning of life had nothing to do with fame and fortune. Chapter 4795. Yi Qian's glory was shown on the big screen with a bloody photo. When the photo was shown, there was a burst of gasps from below the stage. It was a photo of her shoulder being shot. The wound was swollen and inflamed, and the red skin around it was rolled up. Just looking at it made people's hearts sink. Then the second photo was shown. It was a photo of a pair of calves. The calves were badly mutilated, and there were strands of skin tissue hanging down. 2 nurses were carefully cleaning the wound. This photo made the students below the stage so tense that they even breathed lightly. When the third photo was shown, some of the female students couldn't help but close their eyes, unable to bear to look at it. The male students, on the other hand, secretly clenched their fists. They were shocked by the 2 bloody holes in the photo, as well as the large area of abrasions on the back. These wounds, were they all from Yi Qian's body? Was it the same injury? Was the shoulder shot and the red, swollen, and inflamed wound caused by the lack of immediate treatment? Why wasn't it immediately treated? Was it because the conditions and environment at the time didn't allow it? The wound on the back looked like it was pierced by something hard, and then pulled out by herself. Yi Qian must have been in a lot of pain at the time. When they saw the photo, they felt the pain on their back. But now, looking at Yi Qian standing upright on the stage, they couldn't tell that she was injured at all. All 3 photos are from the same person. Right now, she is standing beside me with her back straight, perfectly displaying the tenacity that a soldier should have. As soon as Major General Yang finished speaking, the audience burst into applause. Students, teachers, school leaders, instructors, Everyone in the auditorium applauded the young female soldier on the stage. Unbeknownst to them, student Yi Qian had already shouldered the responsibility of a soldier. She used her own blood to complete the mission given to her by the country, and wrote the style of a modern soldier. Standing upright, Yi Qian gently closed her eyes. Although she never thought that she would one day let others know what she had done, when the thunderous applause entered her ears, she was moved deep inside. The tough faces of her comrades in the Snowfield Brigade flashed through her mind. She was fortunate enough to stand here today and receive applause. However, the comrades who had fought side by side with her were still hiding behind the scenes, silently contributing. Even if they died in battle or retired, they were not known by the world. Compared to her comrades, Yi Qian was so lucky. The applause stopped, and Major General Yang's deep voice once again entered the students' ears. Let's not talk about how Yi Qian got injured. She was able to complete the mission given to her by the country even though she was severely injured. Students, please give another round of applause to Yi Qian, who is not afraid of sacrifice. Major General Yang cherished Yi Qian very much. 3 third-class merit awards and 2 second-class merit award. If there wasn't any information that could shock the students, it wouldn't be enough to make them recognize the merit awards. Fortunately, the Yun Province Anti-Narcotics Police had taken pictures of Yi Qian fearlessly in order to promote the fact that our army was irreconcilable with the dark forces. This allowed all the students to see how much blood and sweat Yi Qian had put in a place where they could not see. While they were still receiving training on campus, sitting in the classroom and learning knowledge, their comrade Yi Qian had already used her own flesh and blood to complete various life and death missions over and over again. After that, everything would naturally take its course. 3 third-class merit awards, 2 second-class merit awards. An exception will be made for the rank of captain, Major General Yang announced. The applause was so loud that it could overturn the auditorium. Chapter 4796. Yi Qian was the only one to be awarded a military rank on the day of graduation. There was no jealousy, only blessings. On the other hand, the students in the command class were very excited. They all agreed that the school leader had left out a sentence. He should have added, "The students in the command class are proud of you." Su Wen clapped hard, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her mouth was moving non-stop, but no one knew what she was mumbling. If one listened closely, they would be able to make out what she was saying. An outstanding student is supposed to be a captain. Little Jane Eyre even has 5 military exploits, yet she's still a captain. Shouldn't she be a major? Although she was mumbling, the strength of her clapping did not weaken. He Jing was not as excited as Su Wen, but she cried a little more. The school leader personally gave Yi Qian the medal that represented the glory of a soldier and the achievements of a soldier. Yi Qian, you are the pride of the University of Science and Technology of China. The University of Science and Technology of China is proud of you. You are also a role model for all the students of the University of Science and Technology of China. Your spirit and achievements are worthy of every student of the University of Science and Technology of China to learn from. As graduation approaches, I hope that you will continue to work hard and contribute what you have learned to the motherland. You will be even more brilliant in the future. The 5 medals that represented the glory of a soldier were placed on Yi Qian's chest. The school leader took half a step back and saluted Yi Qian, who had won glory for the school and the country. Yes, Yi Qian saluted. As he raised his hand, the medals on his chest reflected a dazzling light under the lights, shining into the eyes of all the students below the stage. 3 third-class medals, 2 second-class medals. It turned out that Yi Qian had already made countless military exploits, and they thought that she was just a student who received the title of Outstanding Student every semester. They thought that Yi Qian was already very, very powerful in school, a height that they could not reach. Only now did they realize that Yi Qian was not only powerful in school, but also outside of school. Sometimes they thought that if they worked harder, they might be able to surpass Yi Qian. Now, they did not even dare to think about it. The height that they couldn't reach was the height that they wanted to reach in their lifetime. Following the military salute from the school leaders, the audience burst into applause again. The applause only stopped after Yi Qian returned the salute. Confer the military rank. The most sacred moment had arrived, and the students' expressions became very serious. The atmosphere of the entire auditorium changed. It was solemn and respectful, and no one dared to be presumptuous. A young lieutenant colonel walked onto the stage with a red satin tray with a captain's epaulet on it. The young lieutenant colonel was extremely handsome, and his eyes were as bright as the sun. He had an impressive military might that made people hold their breaths when he appeared. He walked over and stood beside Yi Qian with a faint smile on his lip. I once said that I hope that in the future, in the important days that belong to you, I will be by your side, sharing honor and disgrace with you. Yi Qian stared at him without blinking, and there was warmth in his eyes. In a sonorous and powerful voice, Major General Yang personally took off Yi Qian's shoulder and said softly, "Outstanding students are usually conferred the rank of captain, and you have made 5 meritorious contributions, so you can definitely be conferred the rank of major. However, conferring the rank on the day of the graduation ceremony is already an exception, so I can only wrong you. It's good that you know that she is wronged. Please confer the rank of major as soon as possible when she joins the unit." Beside him, Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who had witnessed his girlfriend's transformation from a student to an active military officer, gritted his teeth and said, "I'd rather not have the military arrange a graduation ceremony and confer the rank on her." Chapter 4797. Major General Yang put on Yi Qian's rank as a captain and replied calmly, "I knew you wouldn't accept it, so I didn't tell you at all. Now that it's a foregone conclusion, you should calm down and take good care of Xiaoyi. Don't think I don't know about your relationship. Captain Xia, I think it's pretty good. Don't be angry," Yi Qian advised softly, calming Xia Jinyuan's anger with just one sentence. Major General Yang adjusted Yi Qian's epaulets and collar, then took a step back and saluted Yi Qian. Since Yi Qian was the first senior to be awarded a military rank, the applause from the audience grew louder and louder. The senior students were not surprised that Yi Qian was awarded the rank of captain. Many students, including Xia Jinyuan, thought that Yi Qian deserved the rank of major. After all, he had risked his life for his 5 military exploits, so it was definitely possible for him to be awarded the rank of major. Yi Qian, who was officially promoted from a student to an active military officer, saluted the school leaders, teachers, instructors, and students who applauded him. He then made a solemn oath in front of the military flag. All the students stood up and saluted in front of the military flag as they made their oath. "I wholeheartedly serve the people, obey orders, strictly abide by discipline, fight bravely, do not fear sacrifice, be loyal to my duty, work hard, train hard, and resolutely complete my mission. I will never betray my country or the military under any circumstances." Oath given, Yi Qian. Oath given, Xia Jinyuan. Yi Qian's moment of glory reached its peak. The students clapped until their palms turned red. After a long time, all the students could still remember how excited they were that day, as excited as they were when they were awarded a military rank. Yi Qian's name was forever engraved in the hearts of all the students. On the day of graduation, no one made any sarcastic remarks about him being awarded the rank of captain. Everyone was sincerely convinced. After an hour and a half of graduation ceremony, the senior students finally left the stage one by one. It was time for them to say goodbye. Yi Qian, who came out in a wheelchair, was surrounded by his classmates. Song Jiqiu, whose eyes were red, walked to Yi Qian and said with a smile, "Let's go. Let's take graduation photos. This time, Xia Jinyuan did not follow them. Since this moment belonged to them, he did not need to get any closer. Standing in front of Major General Yang, Xia Jinyuan, Xia Jinyuan, Xia Jinyuan, Xia Jinyuan, and Xia Jinyuan said, "Major General, why did you hide it from me? Excellent students should have been awarded the rank. I didn't hide it from you." Awarding Yi Jian the military rank on the day of the graduation ceremony was a last-minute decision last night. You can rest assured that with me around, Xiao Ye's rank of major will not run away. You, Xia Yang, Xia Jinyuan, Xia Jinyuan, Xia. The rules and regulations clearly state that men and women in the army are not allowed to fall in love with each other. As the captain, you know the law, but you don't know how to restrain yourself. Do you want to be reported? Xia Jinyuan was not moved by Major General Yang's sudden change of topic. His handsome face was still as cold as water. I will definitely fight for the honor that belongs to her one by one. From first lieutenant to major is a barrier. I hope it can be solved as soon as possible. As for my relationship with her, I am the captain in the army, and she is a soldier. It will not change because of the relationship in our daily life. Please rest assured, Major General. I will definitely do what I promised. I hope you can fight for her more. Don't disappoint my soldiers. Chapter 4798. At this time, Xia Jinyuan was not only fighting for Yi Qian as her boyfriend, he was also fighting for his soldiers as the team leader. His soldiers had fought a bloody battle. If he couldn't even give them the honor they deserved, how could he face them and lead them as the team leader? He would fight for what he needed to fight for and would not just let it go. Major General Yang had always admired Xia Jinyuan's protectiveness, but sometimes it gave him a headache. It didn't feel good to be chased for debt. Major General, you saw how badly Yi Qian was injured. As for me, although I don't know what mission she was on this time, with my experience, I can more or less make a guess. She's a military school student with a bar epaulet. She didn't even finish her studies before fighting alone. I think she's one of the top military school students. Such an outstanding student. How can the military not be moved by her deep awareness? Don't you think it's rare and precious? Since the leader of the National University of Science and Technology has called for all students to learn from Yi Qian, how can the military not reward the students when they learn from Yi Qian? Just punishment without reward is not enough to calm the soldiers. I hope Major General can report my heartfelt words to the military and ask them to consider it carefully. My soldiers and I will wait for good news. Oh, I'm sorry, Major General. I almost forgot that you're the boss of our brigade. I'll have to trouble you with this. Major General Yang raised his hand and rubbed his temples. Even Zhou Ku can't win against you. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I won't mistreat my soldiers. After that, he glared at Xia Jinyuan, who was afraid of being taken advantage of. Major General Yang simply raised his foot and kicked this lieutenant colonel that he liked and had a headache. Get lost, get lost. Don't be an eyesore in front of me. You're saying that I'm a traitor. You're all my soldiers. Do you think I'll let my soldiers be taken advantage of? Get lost. Go and keep an eye on Yi Qian. Don't let them surround her. She needs to rest when she's injured. She can't do anything else. Xia Jinyuan, who easily avoided the kick, raised his eyebrows. Boss, you're a troublesome person. I'm just reminding you because I'm afraid you'll forget. We all know that you've always been protective. Then I'll thank you on their behalf. Please let me know if there's any good news. I'm leaving, you go ahead. She raised her finger slightly and pointed behind her. You're going to be busy today. Behind them, the leaders of the school and the provincial military came together. Major General Yang only looked back and saw that Xia Jinyuan, who gave him a headache, had really left. Not only did she leave, she even smiled and said, "My relationship with Yi Qian will require your help to keep an eye on it." Stinking brat. What did she mean by keep an eye on him? She made it sound so nice because she wanted him to cover for her. Major General Yang, who was both angry and amused at the same time, could not do anything to Xia Jinyuan. After all, they were all his soldiers. If he didn't protect her, who would? However, what Major General Yang did not expect was that the department head and Yi Qian's instructors would cover for him first. They even stood beside him to cover for the two of them. So much so that he had no place to show his heroism. Yi Qian's students quickly gathered together to take a group photo. Yi Qian stood in the center and took the belated graduation photo. Everyone knew that Yi Qian was seriously injured and could not move around. Some students from other classes came over to take a photo with Yi Qian, but they were politely rejected. After Yi Qian finished taking the photo, she still took a photo with the students who were about to go their separate ways on campus. At 10:30 in the morning, Xia Jinyuan pushed Yi Qian out of the campus. Behind her were her classmates who watched her leave. Chapter 4799. The departing figure in front of them gradually faded into a black dot. The sight of the tall, young lieutenant colonel pushing Yi Qian away with a gentle gaze was forever engraved in the hearts of the students who watched them leave. Lu Yang stood at the front. He had been talking and laughing a moment ago, but now he slowly withdrew his gaze. The light in his eyes had dimmed. "Young man, you're still young. Don't be too sad." Wei Jiaming raised his hand and put it on his shoulder. The two of them stood so close that the students beside them didn't notice Lu Yang's abnormality. "At least you can take a picture with her alone before you leave. At least you can resolve one of your worries. You can't ask for too much. Too much will make you tired." Faced with his friend's comforting words, Lu Yang chuckled after a long time. "Yeah, you can't ask for too much. Too much will make you tired. Desire is hard to satisfy. The more you ask, the harder it gets." Wei Jiaming said again, "Ha ha ha, you're aware. Trust me, when you go to the army, you won't have so much time to think about people and things other than work. In another half a year, I think you'll probably have to think about who Yi Qian is before you remember." The place Lu Yang was going to was very difficult. The great northwest was bitterly cold and high above sea level. Even water was difficult there. Other than Lu Yang, there were 4 other male students in the class who were going to a bitterly cold place. Her friend's teasing made Lu Yang's gloomy face smile again. "I haven't forgotten from the beginning of my freshman year to my senior year. Half a year might be a little difficult." Wei Jiaming said disapprovingly, "If half a year isn't enough, then I'll take a year. If 1 year isn't enough, then I'll take 2 years. If 2 years isn't enough, then I'll take 3 years. You can always forget. Also, did you notice that the young lieutenant colonel's gaze was a bit cold when you took a picture with Yi Qian? He probably noticed that I have feelings for Yi Qian. Who cares? He can't care what other people think." Behind him, the students from the other classes called out to him. Lu Yang turned around and saw that they were all students who had been assigned to the plateau. He waved his hand and buried all his thoughts in his heart. It wasn't hard to forget, but it wasn't easy either. Just leave it to fate. What Jia Ming said made sense. The more one asked for, the more difficult it would be. It was best not to make things too difficult for himself. As for the young lieutenant colonel who pushed Yi Qian away, everyone knew exactly who he was to Yi Qian even though there was no introduction. Soon, a student carrying a backpack walked out of the campus, accompanied by a group of students from the same class. The students who were taking photos together suddenly became silent. They stood there and watched as a student who they did not know but had been in school with for 4 years left. They were the first to leave the school and be assigned territory. A student said in a low voice. A faint sigh could be heard. It was time for them to part ways. Yi Qian's class had 8 students assigned to the final assembly, and they left at 3 in the afternoon. Another 14 students left the next day, and the day after that, except for those who passed the postgraduate entrance exam, the rest of the students left. As for Yi Qian, he would have to stay in school for a make-up exam after his injury recovered. Yi Qian, who was sitting in the car, looked at the familiar school gate and slightly tightened his hand on the window. She wanted to stay and accompany her comrades, but the injury on her body did not allow her to be presumptuous. Captain Xia, who had been watching her, also did not allow her to be presumptuous. After watching Yi Qian leave, Su Wen and He Jing returned to the dormitory to receive their things. He Jing's train was a few minutes past 11 tonight. The place she was assigned to was not far from Xiang City. It was in Han City, which was under Xiang City. Su Wen, who had failed the postgraduate entrance exam, also had a place to go. Tomorrow, the train would go to Guangdong Province at 10 o'clock. Song Jiqiu, who had passed the postgraduate entrance exam, continued to study in school. Fortunately, the distance between Xiang City and Guangdong Province was not too far. One night's train could reach Guangdong Province. Chapter 4800. When Song Jiqiu came in, Su Wen and He Jing had just finished packing. They had made an appointment to visit Yi Qian in the hospital at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Seeing Song Jiqiu come over, He Jing gently pushed Su Wen and said, "You two talk. I'll clean up the rest. Talk nicely. Don't fall out with him again." One was assigned to the Guangdong province, and the other continued to study in the university. The lovers who could see each other every day were suddenly separated. That kind of feeling made He Jing feel sad. Su Wen glanced at Song Jiqiu. She didn't say anything, but her eyes were red. They were not the only couple on the campus. Besides them, there were other lovers who had to go their separate ways. None of them were assigned to the same station. Those who were slightly luckier were assigned to the same province. Yi Qian, who was in low spirits, leaned against the seat and kept turning her head to look out of the window, leaving only her slender back view to Xia Jinyuan. Both of them were wearing military uniforms. Even if they wanted to be close, they had to pay attention to their image. Xia Jinyuan didn't disturb Yi Qian this time. It was good to let her be alone. When they arrived at the hospital and closed the door of the ward, Xia Jinyuan bent down and gently hugged his girlfriend in the wheelchair. "Cry for a while. If you're tired, sleep for a while." Yi Qian, who rested her head on his broad shoulder, slowly closed her eyes. Like a cat, she arched her head and rubbed against his neck. The clear and familiar breath gradually soothed the sadness of parting in her heart. After a while, she whispered, "I don't want to cry. I just don't want to part with them. We've been classmates for 4 years. I haven't said goodbye to them before it's time to part. I don't know when we'll see each other again." "Captain Xia, did you see each other after graduation?" Xia Jinyuan, who avoided the wound and gently stroked her back, thought for a while, shook his head and answered, "I haven't seen them since graduation. We only contact each other occasionally through email." "Several students in your class were assigned to the Hakka station in the border area. I also have 2 comrades in the station. I plan to buy some specialties of Xiang City and ask the students in your class to bring them to them so that they can take care of each other in the future." The students who graduated from the National Science and Technology University were assigned to the government agencies, and some were assigned to the most bitter and cold borders. In the future, they might not be able to meet again in this lifetime. I've spent 4 years with them. When it's time to say goodbye, we have to say goodbye. It's normal to feel sad, but don't let it affect you. The time that belongs to them has passed. Treasure this beautiful time in your memory and use your best attitude to welcome the next time. Xia Jinyuan straightened his body and half knelt on one leg. He held Yi Qian's cheeks and said with a smile, "Baby, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. When you join the army, you'll be my soldier and I'll be your captain. You have to be prepared to be scolded by me. Seeing that Yi Qian's face didn't show any signs of tiredness, but instead, because of the graduation separation, she looked worried. Xia Jinyuan, who was distressed for her, simply found a topic that could make Yi Qian quickly come out from the sadness of separation. Just as he was about to talk in depth, someone knocked on the closed door of the ward. Then, the door handle twisted. Xia Jinyuan, who was interrupted, frowned slightly. He still didn't want to open the door. Yi Qian pushed him, her eyes had a shallow smile. Why did you lock the door? Quickly open the door, it should be the doctor. When the doctor leaves, we'll have a good chat. His wrinkled eyebrows relaxed and he quickly kissed her forehead. Xia Jinyuan got up, tidied up his military uniform, and went to open the door. Fortunately, he habitually locked the door so no one saw him. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.